Welcome to the program, everyone. It is a very MAGA Monday morning and a special Monday MAGA day in general. We've got a lot to cover. My name is Brian Craig. You are listening to Florida's longest running radio show, the Steve Kane Show, on the radio since 1977, celebrating 48 years on the radio. And of course, today is the 10th anniversary of the greatest president, our favorite president, who's that? Donald Trump. Tricked you for a second, didn't I? No, it's 10 years ago today that Donald Trump came down the escalator. Think about it. 10 years of Trump. And, it is 10 years of amazement. For a decade, we've never had a president do this before. For a decade, President Trump has dominated the news cycle every minute of every day for 10 years. Not only that, President Trump for 10 years has driven the entire political narrative in this country. 10 years ago today. Do you remember where you were when Trump came down the escalator? I do. And it's very important. And the left are in a major panic over all of this. Do you know how unusual it is for, and by the way, we're going to get more than 10 years because this term has just begun. For a president, if you look back at our past presidents, one-termers, two-termers, people considered great presidents, when they leave the White House, that's it, especially if they're a one-term guy. You don't hear from them anymore. They're no longer a part of the narrative. They're no longer a person of influence. Look at even Barack Obama, the first black president of the United States and the first black man to lead a major nation in the world, and he's faded away. No one cares what Obama says. Bill Clinton, same thing. George W. Bush, all of them. Even Ronald Reagan, when he left office, was forgotten real quick. But not President Trump, because this is not your normal presidency. It's a movement. It's a new political party, really, transforming the Republican Party into the MAGA Republican Party. That's true, and I always refer to the president as what I believe he is, a civil rights leader, leading all of the American people in the largest civil rights movement in the history of the United States to freedom from the tyranny and oppression of the permanent Washington class and their allies. We've never had this happen before, where a president has had this much influence. And think about it. After his first term, even during the 4-year break he dominated the news cycle and the political cycle. Nonstop, 24 hours a day. So today is a day of celebration. 10 years of Trump, 10 years of MAGA. 10 years ago today, President Trump came down the escalator and everything changed. Think about how many people are alive today because of that. President Trump overturning Roe v. Wade. How many people are alive because of just that one thing alone that he did, which was a pretty amazing thing that he did. This is amazing, this Trump presidency. So 10 years ago today, President Trump came down the escalator. Now, you wouldn't know that by watching the news, because the news, they want to do what it is they do, which is their dedication in the media is to smear Trump, slander Trump, divert from the real stories, and blame him for everything. And all they do is try to undermine him. And, we talk about fake news so much. The biggest fake news as of late is the weather. The weather is fake news, and I'm not talking about climate change. Look at what happened on Saturday for the 250th anniversary of the United States Army celebration. The media were predicting 100% rain for 2 days, 3 days. Some said 99%, some said 100%. It didn't rain a drop at the parade. So what was that all about? President Trump made a pretty good point. He said, they can't predict the weather for 2 or 3 days, but they're going to tell you what the weather's going to be in 100 years, 200 years. Exactly. No, the reason that the fake news, the fake weather news came out and was predicting 100% rain was to reduce the turnout at the Army parade. And I think they may have had some success with it. I don't know. Who knows? I know that yesterday and even today, they keep telling about, they only had this many thousands there. I don't know how many were really there. I don't know what was expected. Maybe their fake weather news, had some impact. As much as we know the news is fake, you usually depend on the weather being accurate, right? I'd love to know how this 100% rain prediction came about. Wouldn't you? Because all of the media were predicting it. And not just the media, all the weather apps and everything. 99 or 100% chance of rain in Washington Saturday. And it didn't rain a drop. So even the weather news is fake news. And that's not good, because as fed up as people get with the news, as many people that turn off the news, they do follow it for the weather. So if the weather news has become fake news and you can't even trust the weather and think about it. The Trump derangement syndrome, after a decade since Trump came down the escalator, is so deep, it's even affecting the minds of the meteorologists, of the weathermen and women, to put out a fake story like that. So there's a lot of things going on in the news. This thing in Minnesota, we're going to talk about the war in Israel. I did go to the No Kings event on Fort Lauderdale Beach, and I will talk about that. These are some strange people. I went undercover and actually went inside the No Kings protest and interviewed people. And it was, these were some sad people, weird people, uninformed people, and I'll talk a little bit about that as the show goes on as well. But, this story in Minnesota is what I want to talk about. They are, this story in Minnesota, over the weekend, it was a big story. Something like that happens. It's a national story. But this morning, I get up and do my show prep, and this guy in Minnesota, it is the lead story in every newscast, in every online platform in America. Now, it is a national story, but is it the lead national story? I'm not saying it shouldn't be reported nationally, but it's a back burner story at this point. But the reason that it is being made into a national story in Minnesota is because this guy that claims that they're lifelong friends and roommates said he voted for Trump and that he's MAGA. The guy, and if you've seen the interview, he's the one that read the text message, and he's wearing a Papa John's shirt. So is he a Papa John's worker? You know who I'm talking about? So because this one guy in the Papa John's shirt said that the Minnesota guy voted for Trump, the media are covering this story and putting it right to the top because they're keeping their fingers crossed. Now, first off, that doesn't even make sense. You're telling me that Tim Walz is appointing MAGA people to statewide post? Since when? And this guy in Minnesota is not anybody. I was reading today, he's so down on his luck financially, he took a desperate job removing dead bodies from nursing homes because he needed money so bad. So it sounds like a wackadoodle who would do something like that. Certainly a very desperate person. And like many people who have breaks from reality like this, obviously, some major financial problems and his life is falling apart. But because the media were told by this guy in the Papa John shirt that he's MAGA, the media are hyping this up like nobody's business, because if they can use this and somehow attach it to Trump and the MAGA movement, oh boy, that'll finally wake up these people and they'll stop supporting President Trump. Come on. Now, I want to tell you guys about the free doorbell camera offer from Slomin's. This is absolutely amazing. This doorbell camera, I love it. You get a notification on your cell phone anytime there's movement at your door. I get this all the time. Anytime there's movement at the door. I was doing a live stream in my living room yesterday, and I was live streaming on my cell phone. My wife and I, we got notifications on our phone. There was movement in the front of the house. We both looked. It was a neighbor coming over for something. And my wife, she held up the phone. I was like, oh, it's the neighbor. What are they coming over for? I don't even really know them. But they had an issue, and we took care of it. But it's so nice when there's movement in the front of your house, no matter where you are. You could be at the mall, you could be at Publix, you could be in your living room like I was. You get a notification on your phone, and you can see right then and there who is at your door. It's amazing. And you can get a doorbell camera that connects to your cell phone for free with the installation of your Sloman Shield. Sloman's is also going to give you a free customized home security system and professional installation when you use their low-cost central station monitoring. You get an LED touchscreen, a motion detector, 10 contacts, a lifetime warranty, and a backup battery. Plus, you'll get a free doorbell camera with the installation of your Sloman Shield. Give them a call no matter where you're located. 833-283-5050. 833-283-5050. That's 833-283-5050. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show. We'll be right back. It was a Papa John shirt the guy was wearing. I'm not a big Papa John's fan either. I don't really care for Papa John's. I like real Italian pizzeria pizza. I'm not into these fast food places. A Pizza Hut pan pizza though, that's an exception. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. If you'd like to call in, please do. If you're on hold, hang in there. Our number is 888-465-2631. It is pinned to the live chat. Yep, it is. Call me on the air, KP, and I'll talk about it. Life is good. No doubt. Okay. We'll be back in about 1 minute. You're not articulate enough to express yourself? Well, that's your average liberal. Did any of you see my No Kings documentary? It's on my Patreon page. If you are a paid Patreon supporter, you can take a look at my No Kings documentary. I didn't intend for it to be a documentary, and then when I put it together, I was like, wow, this is amazing. I should go undercover more often. It's been a long time since I went undercover. I go to events, like I went to the Tesla one, but I wasn't undercover. But it's available to all paid Patreon supporters. And I put up another video, too, yesterday of Father's Day with my daughter. Here we go. All right, we're back. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show. We'll get into Iran and Israel and such later, but I want to finish up on the fake weather news as we celebrate 10 years since Trump came down the escalator. What amazing. Could you imagine what this country would be like today if Trump did not come down the escalator 10 years ago today? Hillary Clinton would have been the president. She probably would have won that. Oh, my goodness. All right, now this is the president yesterday.
It's a tremendous success with a fantastic audience. It was supposed to rain. They gave it a 100% chance of rain, and it didn't rain at all. It was beautiful. Yeah. And so I asked if they gave it 100% chance, right? 100% it was going to rain like crazy, and it didn't rain at all. How did they predict 100 years out and 50 years out or 200 years out? They didn't do too well, the weather people, last night, but it was beautiful.
Yeah, well, they did what they intended to do. Now, did you guys watch the Army birthday parade? It was amazing. Although there's two things I noticed that I want to share with you, and well, maybe more than two, but there were a couple of things I noticed that were somewhat controversial during that I want to bring up. But it was amazing. I loved how they did the different periods where they had the soldiers marching in the uniforms of the Air Revolution, Civil War, and I got to tell you, out of all of the uniforms, it seems the World War II uniforms are the best. Not just the dress uniforms that they're back to wearing, but I'm talking about the fatigues that they were wearing. I think World War II guys got the best fatigue. It looked pretty cool. And I thought it was pretty emotional, especially when they got to World War II and they played the theme to Band of Brothers when they came out. That was really amazing. And that parade, if you remember, we got our fake weather news telling us 100% rain chance. It didn't rain a drop. But I even got calls about this last week. But one of the fake news stories that they were promoting was that the roads would not be able to handle the weight of these military vehicles, that they would crack, they would crumble. And there is not a single crack along that parade route. Not a single one. You know why I know that? How do I know that? Because if there was one pothole anywhere along that parade route, CNN and MSNBC and CBS News, they'd be broadcasting live from there talking about the pothole. Now, these military, the roads in D.C. are reinforced for the heavy loads because as the nation's capital, it needs to be protected with military equipment. Okay, so they have roads that can handle it. But the military equipment that they brought in, all these military vehicles, they weren't at full load capacity. They didn't have ammunition and cargo on them or freight. So since they were unarmed, they're only a little percentage of what their maximum weight would be if they were in a combat situation. But no damage to the roads. But there were the reason for the parade. There were many reasons for the parade. But the main reason for the birthday parade, a couple of the bigger reasons, and again, there were many reasons for that parade, and they were all wonderful reasons. But a couple of reasons that they had that parade was, one, President Trump wanted to show the world that the United States Army is back and tough. And it's not filled with transgender soldiers, okay? I saw those soldiers that were in that parade, especially the ones on some of those vehicles. They are bad people. You would not want to mess with them. And the women, too. You would not want to mess with those guys. But I did notice a couple of things, and it really shows you even though President Trump and Pete Hegseth have purged the woke transgenders from the service, we didn't see anyone like that. There were two problems that I noticed, and I'll ask you guys if you noticed as well, and you're welcome to call me and share this. Now, I was watching the presidential box. I watched it on Right Side Broadcasting. I was going to watch it on Fox, and they had Emily Campagno and Lawrence Jones who wouldn't shut up during the parade. It was so annoying. I went back to Right Side Broadcasting on YouTube, and the parade itself had such a great narrator who was going through all the details of everything we were seeing and the history of these great units and everything. And Emily Campagno and Lawrence Jones were just da-da-da-da-da-da. If you watched it on Fox, you missed the whole parade. I couldn't believe it. But anyway, it's true. It's true. I was watching the presidential box a lot, and the president, of course, was getting up and saluting throughout. And I noticed that Pete Hegseth, the look on his face was not always one of happiness. Pete Hegseth. Did any of you guys notice this? Pete Hegseth looked a little aggravated at points when he was sitting there next to the president. Did you notice that? And at first, I was trying to figure out what was going on. What was he mad about? What was he upset about? And then I started to notice with the soldiers marching, I noticed two things. One of them, a lot of them were not marching in lockstep. My wife pointed this out to me. They weren't marching properly. They were out of sync. Unit after unit were out of sync. Did you guys notice that? I couldn't believe it. And the reason that is because these past 4 years, and I guess the Milley era, the training of the military is down the tubes. Now, there's two, and there was another thing too about this, but there's two schools of thought about that. And I'll ask you guys if you noticed it, and which one of these schools of thought do you think are responsible? And it was unit out of unit was out of step. They just weren't marching properly. I was shocked to see it, tell you the truth. And once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. And I saw it with group after group. And that's why Hegseth was ticked off, I think. But there's two schools of thought about the out of sync marching of the soldiers at the parade on Saturday. One is what I had said, that the military training under the Biden regime and under Milley before him is just disastrous, that they're not being trained properly, that they're so concerned about woke things, training's gone down the tubes in the Army. You know, during the era of woke, could drill instructors, could sergeants in basic training behave the way they would normally behave in training? Probably not. There's a second school of thought that it was a protest. If it was one unit or two, I could maybe buy that, but there were too many. In fact, I would say 20 to 30% of those soldiers and the different units throughout the entire parade were not marching in lockstep. And it may have even been higher because we only see the outside. Really, you don't get to see inside the group when they're coming by. Did any of you notice this? There was another thing I noticed, and you could see this a lot with the World War II era guys because of the fatigues. Some of these soldiers are overweight. I saw one guy who had a belly on him. A belly. He had his belt on and his belly was hanging over the belt. And he was on the side of the formation that the presidential box was on. So I think that's why Hegseth was upset. I think he was ticked off. And I bet you, and you know, did you guys see this even covered in the news? I didn't hear anyone discuss this. Maybe they did and I missed it. But I noticed it, and I bet you Pete Hegseth is sending out word today, he probably already did it, to teach these soldiers how to march properly. Yeah, there were a lot of overweight people in that. Now, the obesity thing, that's just the lack of enforcement with the last administration. They could take care of that. But I've never seen soldiers out of sync. You know, when I was watching the parade, my wife's the one who picked up to me that they're out of sync. Something didn't look right. I couldn't figure out what it was. And then when my wife said, look, they're not marching properly, I said, yeah, I couldn't believe it. When she first told me, I said, there's no way. There's no way. And then I looked at it. And I know we got a lot of veterans in this audience. I know you guys noticed it because you had to train to do all that. That's the state of the American military. But don't worry, Pete Hegseth will take care of it. He looked like he was fuming when they were coming by. I could see the looks on his face. You know, what he wanted to do was get up and get a general on the phone right there, or maybe talk to one of them that were in the stands with him, but he couldn't make a scene because the president was there. There's no way that that's not already been dealt with or will be dealt with first thing this morning, which is about now, because I'm sure Hegseth is up. All right, we're going to take our break for the bottom of the hour. Call us on hold. You stand by. Our number is toll-free, 1-888-465-2631, 888-465-2631. We'll be right back. Yeah, did you guys notice that about the marching? Not just the obesity, but the marching? I wish I wouldn't have seen it. Because like I said, it's one of those things, once you see it, you can't unsee it. See the delay? I'm still talking. For the bottom of the hour. Call us on hold. You stand by. Our number is toll-free. 1-888. That's how long the delay is. 2631. 888-465-2631. We'll be right back. How long ago did I sign off? It's a long time, isn't it? Yeah, I know. When I tell you guys you got to turn down the volume in the background, that's why. The delay is long.
With a slight chance of thunderstorms. Tonight it's going to be mostly clear with a low of 82 degrees. Tuesday morning and throughout the day a high of 85 degrees with a chance of thunderstorms. Tuesday night another chance of thunderstorms with a low of 82 degrees.
Weather brought to you by Kalea Pain Relief Cream. Is pain robbing you of your quality of life? If you answered yes, you have to try Kalea Pain Relief. Kalea Pain Relief Cream relieves arthritis, joint, and muscle pain better than anything you've ever tried. Kalea, get back to doing what you love. Now available in your local public supermarket in the pharmacy section. And now, a True Oldies traffic check. Brought to you by the Palm Beach Kennel Club.
Military Trail north of Southern Boulevard. Watch for an earlier crash. There's construction, Hypoluxo Road at Jog Road. Spot something on the roads, call the traffic tip line. Pound 250 keyword West Palm Traffic. I'm Ron Hersey.
Traffic, a service of the Palm Beach Kennel Club. PBKC is your entertainment destination with poker, OTB, table games, exceptional eats, and exciting events. The poker.
Stand by, guys. We'll be back shortly. Got a few things to handle here. Perfect. We'll be back in less than a minute, guys. Welcome back, one and all. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. You know, so I went to that No Kings event at Fort Lauderdale Beach on Sunrise and A1A on Saturday. And they had a whole bunch of them all over the place. They had Coral Springs, Boca. I think they had one in Delray, Palm Beach. They're all over the place. And I went to the one in Fort Lauderdale. And I went through and interviewed these people for one of my online platforms. And what I did is I went undercover. When I went to the Tesla protest a couple of months back, I wore my Make America Great Again hat, and I had on my Doge shirt that I have with the president and Elon on it. And basically all that became was people screaming and yelling obscenities at me. Very good video. You may have seen it. So I decided to do something different that I not done before, and I left my MAGA hat in the car, and I went in and interviewed these people at the No Kings rally. So they did, you know, although there were a couple of listeners who smoked me out, one guy in particular, but there were a lot of people there. I will tell you, there were a lot of people there. That at the peak of the event on Fort Lauderdale Beach, I would say there was between 1,000 and 2,000 people easily. But it is, you know, there's a reason for that. Like, you know, out of all of the No Kings events that they had, Boca, Coral Springs, Fort Lauderdale, the Palm Beach ones, I chose that one because I knew it would have a lot of people there because it is not just liberal Broward County, but Fort Lauderdale is the center of the gay community, the gay activist community. And my good friend Dan, who's one of our great listeners that goes on our MAGA cruises, and that's how I've gotten to know him. You know, we're friends. He met me over there. I got there before him, and he went over there and he met me. And when you go to see the video, you'll see Dan in some of it. You know, and I went through and interviewed these people. And the first guy I interviewed, who could barely speak, he was holding up a sign, United We Stand with L.A., Los Angeles. So I went up to him, and I asked him to tell me about his sign. He didn't even know what the sign said that he was holding, and he told me, you know, somebody just gave this to me. I just picked it up when they gave it to me. He didn't even know. I got some behind the scenes of their fake spontaneous organizing and stuff, and it was an interesting experience. But don't let the number of people make you worry. Number one, it is in the most liberal town in Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It also is the San Francisco of the East, okay? It's per capita, it probably has more gays in it than any other city in America next to San Francisco, and maybe the largest gay population of a city of its size in the country. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Remember the Seinfeld episode? But it's a hardcore liberal area. And Dan and I, when we were there, I would say, and when you see my video, it was about 90% gays, 90%. And I saw, and this is not an exaggeration, there were between 1,000 and 2,000 people there. The center of it was A1A and Sunrise Boulevard, and it went north and south, and it was a long way. It was a very long way. So there were a lot of, I mean, it might even be fair to say there were as many as 2,000 at one time in attendance. But it was 90% gay from the town, and under the age of 40, and this is not an exaggeration, and anyone who was there would back this up. Under the age of 40, there may have been 4 people there under the age of 40. Really, okay? I mean, it was very few young people. They were mostly old, gray hair, blue hair, old gay activists that are still under the impression that they don't have gay rights yet. They spent their whole life as gay activists fighting for gay rights. They got their gay rights, and now they don't know what to do with themselves. And, you know, this movement, no matter how many people they got to show up, It's a gay activist movement, this No Kings, and a very old movement. So, you may say to yourself, well, you're not all that young. You're 54 years old. Yeah. But we have young people at MAGA events, okay? Very young people at MAGA events, high school and college kids, thanks to the great Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA and a lot of the work he's done. They don't have up-and-coming people in their movement. The Democrat Party today, it's dying off. Their people are too old. They have too many people in it that aren't having reproductive sex. And frankly, most everybody there was well beyond the childbearing years anyway if they wanted to do something like that. So when you see my video of it, you'll see they're very, very old, very uninformed, don't know much of anything, and that's it. I mean, it's an old person's movement. And you know what they kind of reminded me of? They kind of reminded me in the 90s. In the 80s, we had a lot of this, and we still had them around in the 90s. The FDR Democrats. They were grandma and grandpas. Remember the FDR Democrats, right? They World War II era. They remember the Depression and all of that, and how Roosevelt got them out of the Depression, so they were loyal to the Democrats. That's how these people are. They're old timers. Very few young people. Very few young people. Okay, and of those under 40, the 4 I saw, they were gay. So it's really was a gay activist movement, and they got nothing left to fight for because the gay rights activists have accomplished everything they were trying to accomplish. But I did go, and I kept it from everybody that I was going because I didn't want people to show up, because that's exactly what they wanted. They were very disappointed that MAGA didn't show up. In fact, some of them were saying, where's all the MAGA people? Where's all the MAGA people? Well, little did they know I was there with my friend Dan, and I was interviewing them. And, basically, I didn't debate them. I maybe ask a couple of questions here that were somewhat debating. I did that at the Tesla event when they were screaming at me. What I was trying to convey with that, and I didn't even have to press for this, is how vacuous they are so far as the issues. Like, one of the guys, he was dressed as a clown, and he was holding a sign that said "No More Kings." And I said to him, President Trump, he was just reelected, won the national vote, won all the battleground states. That sounds like duly elected, not a king. And he's like, well, he only won by 2 million votes, he said. Well, I don't know what the actual numbers off the top of my head, but that's still winning. One by one's winning, right? They win. They make world records by hundredths of seconds. And many of them, as I went along and would ask them that question, would admit that he wasn't a king, that he actually did win the election. Just doesn't have their vote. But basically what it was, senior citizens who are also gay activists, who have stage 4 Trump derangement syndrome, and they needed a place to go and vent their anger. And that was at the No Kings March. And, President Trump doesn't care what any of those No Kings people say. They're not moving the needle. What did they do? Are they there? And the problem they're having is it's an old person's movement. It's an old person's movement that's not gaining new people. You've got to gain new people. You've got to reproduce, so to speak. All right, and I noticed this was another thing. The Democrats are very well aware of this. The event started at either 9 or 10 a.m., depending on which one you were at. Who starts an event like that at 9 or 10 in the morning on a Saturday? You know who? People that are doing something with old people who are up early in the morning. And 2, 3, 4, 5 in the afternoon is like nighttime to them, and they wouldn't be there. So they did these events early in the morning, knowing that their liberal movement is a bunch of old fogies, and 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, that's it, and by noon, they're ready for bed. 9 a.m., 10 a.m. is very early on a Saturday for Democrats. Now, if you're on hold, hang in there, guys. You know, hurricane prep is so important. And really, I think the most important part of hurricane prep is making sure that you have a secure roof. And, of course, that's where Tom Laporta at Laporta Roofing comes in. If you've got a wet spot on your ceiling, you've got a leak in your roof. That leak means, depending on the type of roof, maybe you got shingles or tile, whatever. That means there's a loose shingle, there's a loose tile. And when those hurricane and tropical storm force winds are coming through, they're looking for an entryway. And that loose shingle, that loose tile is the entryway into your roof. It gets in there, boom, the whole roof's gone. You don't want that. And even if we don't have a hurricane and we have a tropical storm, which we'll have, okay, in a tropical storm, there are hurricane strength wind gusts that come through. They're not sustained, but there's hurricane wind gust. Even in a hurricane, like if we get the weakest hurricane, Cat 1, okay, when they assign a category of a storm, that's by sustained winds. So in a Cat 1 hurricane, you still have wind gust of the higher hurricane levels. They're just not sustained. And boom, they get under that shingle, they get under that tile, that's it. It's off to Kansas. So give Tom Laporta at Laporta Roofing a call. He'll never sell you a roof you do not need. If you need a simple repair, he'll do it. He's a good MAGA guy, and he gives out his cell phone number, so you can call or text. This number rings directly to Tom Laporta's cell phone, 954-604-4602. 954-604-4602. And online, LaportaRoofing.com. We'll be right back. Right, if you're on hold, hang in there. We'll go to the phones after the break. The No Kings documentary I made is on my Patreon page. So those of you that are paid Patreon supporters, you can watch that video in its entirety. It's pretty good. You know, I just decided to do it in a different way than I normally would, you know. If I could have gone there in my MAGA hat, they would have screamed at me. We'll be back in about a minute. I know a lot of you have been on hold. I will go to the phones when we get back. Yeah, then another judge overruled that judge. But things have calmed down in LA, haven't they? If you're new, make sure you subscribe, guys. Yeah, there's a... Okay, we're back. We're coming back. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest-running radio show. All right, let me take some of these calls. I've been jibber-jabbering for the better part of an hour. Our number, 1-888-465-2631. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Mike from Louisiana.
Oh, yes, Mike. Hold on, Mike. Let me put Mike on hold. Let me see here. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm from New York City, and I am calling from New York City. My name is Angelina.
All right, Angela in New York City, what's on your mind?
I think that no one knows how to respect my country. Anyone in my generation, I'm 26 years old. We don't hold respect, loyalty, or honesty. We lie for anyone just to get our way, and I highly disrespect anyone who destroys this country. Here in New York, they blew up 11 cop cars down in Brooklyn. That's not too far away from me, and I just think it's ridiculous. No one knows how to have a conversation today. No one knows how to listen, and it's just like everyone's right, regardless of who you are. I love Donald Trump. I love that what he does. My father fought for this country for 20 years. He fought for our freedom and the American U.S. citizen freedom. I believe my mom, she was born and raised in the Philippines. She came here legally. She came here with third grade education, and then she went to college for GED. There's no reason why the rest of these illegals can do this to my country. I'm sick and tired of watching them burn my flag on the ground for the men and women that fought for our lives to walk the freedom that we have. And it's the most sickening thing. I couldn't even walk to Trump Tower on his birthday because there were so many liberals, and they were like, the feeling that you get off of them, you just don't feel safe. And I lived out here for almost 10 years now, and I can't even take it anymore. I can't walk out my door. I'm a chef. I got to go downtown, and it's like I can't even go downtown without not checking my back every 5 seconds. I don't feel safe here anymore. I haven't felt safe here in the last 4 years, let alone when I'm barely scraping by and I see everyone else have better clothes than I do or more food in their mouths than I do. And I'm working 16, 20-hour days, and you just sit back and you watch them, and all your whole entire paycheck just goes to them.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? You know what it is that, the Democrats, they don't care about you. They don't care about Americans. They care about South Americans. If you were from South America, you wouldn't have to work as a chef. You wouldn't have to worry about your next meal. It would be provided to you by the liberals.
It's just ridiculous. And I don't understand I do understand where we went wrong. It's when it all starts with the parents. And if your parents don't hold respect, honesty, discipline, and work ethic, it's going to carry into your kids, and then you're going to create what you created now. And we got everything in the U.S. We don't understand. I traveled outside of this country. They do not understand what a third world country is. They don't understand what real poor is. My mother, when her father died at the age of 9, she had to wrap her father's her baby's diapers, her family's diapers, with her dad's dead
oh my goodness.
Clothes.
Oh my goodness.
And that's what. So it's like, do you think we really know what poor is, or we're so privileged that they don't understand what it is to be an American?
Yep.
It just drives me crazy.
Well, you know what it is with the Democrats. See, the Democrats hate the American people. That's why they're bringing in this Trump stopped them, but they were bringing in this replacement population to replace us.
Have you seen Deport America? I mean, they put Death to America down in New York, and I was just like, I'm American. Are they going to kill us first? Are they going to hurt me first?
Yeah.
It's like I can't even carry anything. I can't carry mace. I'm 111 pounds. Anyone's bound to fold me like an omelet on the train.
You're in the wrong city. You need to move to some place that's conservative.
I just visited Naples, Florida.
Oh, that's nice.
And that was the first time in my life in 10 years I felt like an American, and I could be proud to be an American.
Naples, Florida, which is along the Gulf of America.
I know. Oh, it was beautiful. I swam in the Gulf of America. I spent time in Naples. It was beautiful, and it's like, this is what real Americans are. We hold respect.
Well, you know what it is? Listen, I live in Florida. I live in Florida, right? I'm in Florida. And I see this with friends of mine, when they first moved to Florida from New York or Pennsylvania or Washington State or California, they feel like they've been liberated, like they've been slaves and they're free.
Yes. I can't believe you pulled those words right out of my mouth. It literally felt like that.
Yeah.
I never felt so. Because here I have to watch my back. I one time wore my Trump T-shirt. The biggest mistake of my life. went and walked around with a Trump T-shirt, and I had a man one time follow me, and he spit in my face.
Oh, my
told me,
goodness.
"You fucking American."
Oh, all right.
And
First, I know she's passionate. First dump of the day. Oh, my goodness. First dump of the day. I know, she's emotional. That was an accidental problem on her part. Well, if you're on hold, hang in there. While we're waiting for the delay to re-engage, our number, 888-465-2631. Oh, my goodness. You got to feel bad. You know, there's a lot of Americans like her that feel that way. And the way she feels, you know, even though Trump is now back, she's in New York City, right? She's in Hochul's New York. And even though the deportations have happened, even though the border has been shut down, there's still a lot of them there in New York. And you saw this exchange with Governor Hochul the other day with Stefanik in that congressional hearing. And Stefanik was bringing up instances of women who were victimized, and Governor Hochul could not care less. She doesn't care about those American girls. She cares about South American girls. Well, she doesn't even really care about them because everything they have to go through to even get here illegally. But she and you could tell Hochul was unmoved when they held up all these victims of her state to illegals who have victimized them. It's really sad. Now, I do want to tell you about the great Mike Lindell MyPillow. There's an incredible sale going on right now on the MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets. They're just $49.98 with our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. That's a huge discount because they're usually $109.98. Mine, I paid $109.98 for. And I have several sets of these. I have several sets of the regular, and I also have a set of the flannels. And Giza Cotton, these MyPillow Giza Cotton Dream Sheets, Giza Cotton is the finest cotton in the world, and they are made of it 100%. They keep your body the perfect temperature. No matter what the temperature is in your home or outside, no matter what time of year it is, you're always Goldilocks with the Giza Dream Sheets, just $49.98. And by the way, that's for all of the sheet set sizes, okay? And they come in twin XL, full queen, RV queen. Yeah, so if you've got an RV queen, king, split king, California king, all sizes, all colors, the exact same price with our promo code Kane at checkout. They also come with a 60-day money-back guarantee. Those are the 100% Giza Cotton Dream Sheets at MyPillow.com. You can also order by phone toll-free, 1-800-716-4879. 1-800-716-4879. Promo code Kane, Kane. All right, now if you're on hold, you guys hang in there. After the top of the hour, I'll go back to the phones. Also, if you're on hold, hang in there. And also, I'm going to bring up some other topics I haven't gotten to yet. But if you're just tuning in, you missed a lot. And I want to finish the hour talking about this Minnesota killer that they captured. You know, we know more about this Minnesota killer they just captured than we know about either of the Trump assassins in the media. You notice that? Because this guy that says that they live together and the Papa John shirt said he voted for Trump, the media are hyping this up. This arrest photograph of him, you know, I follow true crime a lot. I tell you guys, I read the local news because I like true crime. I just do. I find it interesting. I don't, you know, and when you read the local news, you're reading, it's like reading the true crime novels, right? But they're real, right? They're real. This arrest of this guy in Minnesota is the highest quality arrest photograph I think I've ever seen. It's, you know, they got this guy, the cops are wearing, looks like military gear. Looks like they sent the army in with him. You know, with night scopes and everything else. They're dressed better than some of those guys that were in the Army parade on Saturday. And the photograph they got at the capture is like in 4K. Have you noticed this? Have you ever seen an arrest photograph that has the image clarity of this? And that's not an accident. They want us all to be talking about him today. They want that to be the lead story because the guy in the Papa John shirt said he voted for Trump. So somehow they think they can connect this to Trump. Well, that's not going to happen. And when the real story comes out about this guy, it'll disappear from the news. We may never know the real story because when the real things start to come out, they'll move on to something else, right? They'll move on to something else. And, you know, this guy was appointed to a post by Tim Walz, some state committee post. It's not the biggest deal, but he was appointed by Tim Walz. Tell me Tim Walz is appointing MAGA Republicans to state-level committees? I don't think so. Just on the surface of that, does that even make sense? But let's say he is a registered Republican. What does that even mean? The Butler shooter was a registered Republican. Nicole Wallace and Michael Steele on MSNBC are registered Republicans. Liz Cheney is a registered Republican. So even if this guy is a registered Republican, which I'm not so sure of, I know they continue to say that, what does that even mean? Doesn't mean much, does it? But that's why the story's still in the news today. All right, callers on hold, you stand by. My name is Brian Craig. You're listening to The Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show on the radio since 1977. Our number is toll-free, 1-888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. We'll be right back.
I want to talk about the
I'll go back to the phones when we get back. So if you're on hold, hang in there. Okay. We'll be back shortly. Wow, that is perfect. So I'm just reading some messages people have sent me about some things I was doing. Hour number 2 has begun. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to The Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest-running radio show. Let's take a call or two. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Brian. Jeff Man.
Hey, Jeff. What's up?
Hey, it's hard to believe it's been 10 years since President Trump came down the escalator and all of the evil that has been exposed. And I, too, am wondering why, with the Epstein client list and what they know went on with there, things haven't happened more.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. Maybe we don't know everything they do, and I don't understand why they have to wait, but I'm guessing that's what they're doing, is waiting. I can't imagine what for, though. But President Trump saved us from a Hillary Clinton presidency that would have nailed the
that's for sure. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. We would have been in trouble. If Trump didn't come down the escalator 10 years ago, Hillary would be president. All right, appreciate the call, Jeff. I do appreciate that. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, these Minnesota people, they were shot and killed, unlike Trump, who wasn't shot at all. It was a fake.
No, President Trump was shot in the he was shot in the ear.
It was Taco.
It was Taco. I wish that was true. See what we're dealing with here? That was that's what they were like at the No Kings celebration. There's a couple things I want to get into the Israeli-Iran war and what's going on here. Okay. There's a couple of things I want to share with you, and if you're on hold, hang in there, okay? There was a big story yesterday, which I'm sure will be discussed today because yesterday was a Sunday, and a lot of times the news cycle is driven by, the things they drop on the Sunday shows and such. Yesterday, there was a story that President Trump stopped Netanyahu from assassinating the supreme leader of Iran, the Ayatollah. And a lot of people are making a big thing about that, as if there's some conflict between Trump and Netanyahu over this. And I don't think so. It is against the American law, and this is a big deal law, okay? It is against the law for the United States to target a head of state. I don't remember when that was made a law, but it's a big deal. And I think the reason that we got this story coming out of the White House is because Netanyahu and Israel, their goal is regime change, and their goal is to take out the Ayatollah, who's the supreme leader of Iran. This is going to happen. I mean, at least that's what they're trying to do. I'll tell you what their goal is in a minute. And President Trump in the White House wanted it to get on the record that they don't support that because it's against the law of the United States. In fact, if President Trump were involved in an attempted assassination of any kind, even during a war of a foreign head of state, it is a high crime or misdemeanor that the Democrats would use to impeach him. It's a big deal. It's a big deal law. In fact, I remember the last time it was really discussed was when there were 2 times I remember being discussed. They were both with Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton had 2 opportunities when he was president to take out bin Laden. I mean, totally take him out. And this was after the coal and all these other things. And one time they had him. There was zero chance. This is long before 9/11 because Bill Clinton was president. The military had bin Laden in a convoy that they could have taken him out. And Janet Reno, who was the attorney general at the time, talked Bill Clinton out of it. So goes the story. And she told him that he's an enemy leader that would be against the law. Now, bin Laden was not a head of state, but, that's what Janet Reno as a liberal sold to Bill Clinton, and he didn't do it. There was a book we had the author on many years ago, and the book was called Killing bin Laden. I don't remember who the author was, but we had him on the show a couple times. I remember there were 2 instances. I don't remember the other instance. But taking out a foreign head of state is a big law that for presidents in the United States. It's a big law. And if President Trump were involved with assassinating the Ayatollah, the supreme leader of Iran, he would be openly breaking a big law. And President Trump, if you notice in this second term, they've been baiting him, trying to get him to commit a crime. What do you think all these federal judges are about? Right? It's not so much, it's part of it, but it's not so much that the federal judges are little presidents in robes. They're trying to get Trump to disobey court orders so they can get him on some crime, all right? And President Trump has been very careful not to do that. I know a lot of people get frustrated at it, but I'm sure President Trump's frustrated. Like the other day, as an example, they found, was it a Clinton or Obama judge? I forgot. Well, it was either a Clinton or an Obama judge that ruled that Trump had to turn the National Guard of California back over to New Scum. So what did Trump do? Did he defy? No. The Trump administration went to another court that overruled the previous court. Okay? So President Trump has been very careful not to break any laws or defy these judges. So taking out the supreme leader of Iran would be a big law he'd be breaking. That's why they're on the record as doing it. Now, the stated goal, I don't know if it's stated. Let me retract stated. The goal of Israel is to take out the supreme leader, the Ayatollah. They want 100% regime change in Iraq. In Iran. They want 100% regime change in Iran. Okay? They've taken out some of their leaders, and they want to take out the Ayatollah, the supreme leader. And it seems that Israel has a lot of assets inside Iran that are pretty active. And that may happen. But President Trump wanted everyone to know he doesn't approve of that. Just because it's against the law of the United States for us to target a foreign head of state doesn't mean Israel can't do it. Get my drift? But this is the Israeli plan. Their plan is to take out the entire government of Iran, including their supreme leader, the Khomeini. He's not the same guy from 79, a new Khomeini. And is that his real name, or did they take the name like the Caesars in Rome? I don't know. But Israel's goal is to take out the entire government of Iran, including the supreme leader, have 100% regime change, and have the Shah return. The son of the last reigning Shah is still alive. He's very active, I understand, in these circles, and he is the successor. Okay? That is their plan. Now, I don't know how realistic that is, but that's Israel's plan with this war. Now, just over the weekend, might have been late last week, but I believe it was over the weekend, the Shah's successor's son that Israel wants to take over Iran again, his daughter, who is the granddaughter of the famous Shah that was deposed in 1979, the granddaughter of the last Shah just married a Jewish guy over the weekend in Europe. So I don't know how accepting the Iranian people are going to be with all of that, with the Shah coming back, and now his family's married a Jewish businessman, and the daughter and all this stuff. I don't know how accepting they'll be. But Israel's plan, their goal, what they're trying to do is take out the supreme leader. And President Trump wants everyone to know he doesn't approve of that, and he's got nothing to do with that. And that's what's going on. Now, there's more, which I'm going to get to after the next break, that's going on that I want to cover. And if you're on hold, hang in there. Our number is toll-free, 1-888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. And I want to talk to you guys about Lighthouse Medical. Oh, man. Neuropathy is the worst. It really is. The problem with neuropathy is the signs and symptoms of neuropathy turn you into a homebound and even bedbound person who's not just living in constant discomfort, but pain too, right? Pain, numbness, burning, tingling in the hands and feet, dizziness. A lot of times, older people that are falling down all the time have neuropathy. A lot of you guys have neuropathy, don't even know it. So if you have any of these symptoms, give Lighthouse Medical a call. Take advantage of their no-charge consultation for Steve Kane listeners and find out if you have neuropathy or not. The feeling of pins and needles in the hands and feet. Some have no feeling at all. Many people have multiple symptoms at once. And I remember my great-grandmother falling down all the time. Dizzy. She'd fall down all the time. Break her hip, she was always breaking something. She was really old, too. She was like in her late 80s. And I bet you, looking back, she had neuropathy. Now, your primary care physician, even your neurologist, will tell you there's no treatment for neuropathy. Well, that's not true. There's a treatment at Lighthouse Medical in Pompano. It's a treatment that works, and it's a treatment that lasts. I know this for a fact, not just because I've seen it on many of our listeners, but Steve Kane had his neuropathy treatment about 3 years ago. It had an immediate effect, and 3 years ago, Steve was rid of all these neuropathy symptoms, and 3 years later, they have not returned. So Lighthouse Medical has a treatment for neuropathy. Lighthouse Medical has a treatment for neuropathy that works, and Lighthouse Medical has a treatment for neuropathy that lasts 3 years with Steve Kane. It's another day every day without those neuropathy symptoms. Give them a call. And remember, Lighthouse Medical can help you no matter where you are located. You don't have to be here local. You can be anywhere in the United States. 754-222-6642. 754-222-6642. That's 754-222-6642. And online, lighthousemedicalcenter.com. We'll be right back. We'll be back soon. If you're on hold, hang in there. Hey, what's up? Okay, hold on. I'm going to put you on hold. I'll pick you up in just a moment. Hold on. All right, you there, Steve?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, we got just over a minute.
Good.
All right, stand by. Here we go.
I'm ready.
Just a few seconds. All right, we're back. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. On the radio since 1977. Steve Kane joining us. Hey, Steve.
Good morning. How are you doing this day? This fine day.
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm doing pretty good. I've been listening.
I'm a little mixed feelings here. I wanted to share with you. I was watching TV last night on Fox about 10 o'clock, and it was just after one of the Iranian bombs had gotten through and hit a major condominium, I guess it was.
Yeah.
In Israel. Did you see that footage, by the way?
Is that? I've seen a lot of explosions. Is this the one in Tel Aviv where the old U.S. embassy in Tel Aviv got hit? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I got to tell you, they had great camera work on Fox. It was unbelievable. The thing had just happened, and it was raw footage in every sense of the word.
It's awful.
And I heard them talking, and they were a little hesitant, but they seemed to indicate that Donald there had been a strike to take out Khomeini, the leader, that Don had called off at the last minute.
No, I was talking about that in the last segment. Let me clear it up. I don't know. I've heard variations of the story. Okay.
It's the front page of the Post.
Yeah, I know. I've heard variations of the story, and they're basically one of two things. Either the Israelis were about to take out the supreme leader, the Ayatollah, the new. Yeah. By the way, is his name really Khomeini, or do they just take the name like the Caesars of Rome? I don't know.
I'm not sure, but we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah. So there's two versions of the stories I've heard. I'm not sure which one is true, but it doesn't matter for the discussion. One is that they had a strike plan to take out the supreme leader. Trump said no to Israel, and they called it off and says you can't do that. And some stories say he told them not to do it. And
either one of those stories, if that's true, I'm not in the habit of second guessing Donald Trump because he's right 98% of the time. But this time, I'd have to really if I was an Israeli and watching that horrible footage we saw last night, raw footage of them carrying the bodies out and stuff like that, I'd be pretty ticked that we could have taken
first off,
Khomeini out and we didn't do it.
You may have missed this when I was talking about it in the last segment because you're getting ready, but it is against the law of the United States to target a foreign head of state.
Against the law.
So President Trump was going on I think what was happening is the Trump administration was going on the record. We're not involved in that. We don't approve of that. You can't do it. It doesn't mean Israel can't do it, but President Trump can't be involved or approve of such a thing. It's against the law. It's a big law too. It's a big deal. It would cause a big problem.
Oh, I would say it could end the conflict.
No. It could end the presidency of Trump. If Trump was involved in... you're wrong, Steve. It's a big deal. It's a big law.
I think it is a big deal. I think it's a big deal if you didn't do it.
No, you don't know No, you're wrong. I don't think that he called off anything, okay? I think they just went on the record that he's not involved with such a thing and said, no, if Donald Trump were to sign off, Steve, on the assassination of a foreign head of state, it could be the end of his presidency. It's a big law to break. It's a big one. They would be charging him with murder. He would be in big trouble if he allowed that. He's got to distance himself from it.
That's what it's going to take to end this war.
Well, it's not our war. It's Israel's war. Israel can still do it. Doesn't mean Israel can't do it.
If Israel could do it, they would do it.
Well, since they started the war, hopefully they'll finish it. But, I'm a strong supporter of Israel, but I don't know if I believe or trust Netanyahu. I just...
Well, what is this you're not trusting?
Well,
all you have to do is look at those pictures. They tell the story.
Well, who started it?
Who started it?
Israel bombed Iran.
Iran, for crying out loud, who started it?
Who bombed who first? Iran didn't bomb first. Israel bombed first.
Iran basically announced, let us know that they are on the verge of having the weapon, and they can reach the United States.
I don't believe that. You know, I saw an article over the weekend that said, this was a New York Times article, and the headline said, Iran is 5 years away from a nuclear weapon. That article was from... Hold on. It said that the headline was, Iran is 5 years away from a nuclear weapon, and that article was dated 1995. So that means 25 years ago they were supposed to have the nuclear weapon. So I don't believe...
Would that satisfy if you had relatives in Tel Aviv?
Well, I don't think it's true that they were that close to a weapon. Well, whatever. I mean, you know, I don't trust Netanyahu's, what he's saying here. And this Bret Baier interview that he did, have you seen any of this Bret Baier interview with Netanyahu?
Well, let me ask you, why would Netanyahu make that up?
Well, I'm not saying that they're not trying to develop nuclear weapons, okay?
Well, you say you don't trust them.
I don't trust Netanyahu on this because he wants Iran gone.
Don't we want Iran gone?
Well, we don't want Iran gone. We want the Islamic government gone. But the last time we had regime change, that was in Iraq, and that didn't turn out too well. We had years of an insurgency where a lot of guys got killed and hurt. Well, just look at the wounded commercials you see on TV all the time. I don't think that they were that close to a nuclear weapon. I just don't. I don't think so. Iran's evil. Don't get me wrong.
Too close for comfort.
According to who?
According to what I'm hearing.
No, this is a mess. This is a mess.
Well, I think we can agree on that.
But the war was started by Israel. They started bombing Iran, so of course they're going to fire back.
Israel didn't start. Israel is being existentially threatened by this war. All it takes is one nuke. There's no more Israel.
Well, they said that they took out their nuclear research. They took it out on the first strike.
No, they took out a couple guys, but they don't have the guy that counts, the guy on top.
Well,
that's the guy we're talking about.
Well, I was telling you what the Israeli goal is to take out the entire regime, which includes the Ayatollah. They want to take them all out, and they have a plan. It's regime change. This is total war. This isn't until their nuclear program is no more. Their goal is 100% regime change in Iran. And I just don't know if that's possible.
Well, I agree with that.
I don't know if that's possible.
We're just talking about when that plan kicks in.
Well, that's what's going on now.
It should start right away.
They're trying to...
After seeing what I saw yesterday on television.
Well, what are they not supposed to fire back when they've been hit first? I mean, it's terrible. I'm not defending Iran, but Israel, they did the bombing campaign.
It sure sounded like it.
No.
It sounds like you're defending
Not at all. It's like, you know, it's very, you know, it's a similar situation to Russia and Ukraine. I mean, Putin invaded. Of course they're going to fight back. You know, I mean, it's a mess. And I saw Netanyahu with Bret Baier over the weekend. And hold on, so I'm going to answer some of these calls before we get to the bottom. I saw Netanyahu on over the weekend with Bret Baier, and he's talking about these multiple assassination attempts by Iran on Trump. I believe that. That's true. But Netanyahu's on with Bret Baier trying to, you know, most MAGA people and some of the most vocal MAGA people are not in favor of this war. Charlie Kirk, Tucker Carlson, and others. Okay? And I'm not 100% convinced Trump is either, but it happened, so what's he going to do? You know? And Netanyahu is trying to turn MAGA opinion in favor of this war. That's what I think. But listen, Steve, I'm going to take our break for the bottom. Can we take some calls when we get back?
Let's do it.
All right. I'm gonna put you on hold, okay? If you're on hold, hang in there. It's the Steve Kane Show. I'm Brian Craig. We're, of course, talking about this war. And make no mistake, I'm a strong supporter of Israel. I just question whether or not Iran was close to the bomb, as they say. We'll be right back. Steve, you there? Hey there. All right, hold on. I lost you during the break. Okay, hold on. All right, you there, Steve?
Yes.
Okay, hold on. Oh, we'll be back in a couple minutes.
Okay, sounds good. The discussion of this lunatic who did the shooting is not the right choice.
No, it's fine.
We're on the right choice now.
Well, we're on for 3 hours, Steve.
Yeah, but I mean, I think this is where the...
Well, I'll keep the callers on track. I was saving this for you, the Iran stuff. I was saving it for when you came on.
No, that's cool.
Because I know we got a different take on it, so I was saving it.
Yeah, but it's good. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
We're where we should be.
All right, we got about 30 seconds, so.
Okay. Laura?
Yep, we're coming back, Steve. Stand by. Don't.
Laura?
Steve, we're coming back.
Okay.
All right, let's go. All right, we're back. Call us on hold, stand by. I'm Brian. Steve Kane is here. It's the Steve Kane Show on this Monday morning, 10 years ago today. Trump came down the escalator, and we're talking about this war. You know, I just want to be clear. I am not defending Iran, and I support Israel. I just don't think we're getting the whole story about anything from Netanyahu, okay? All right, you want to take some calls, Steve?
Yeah.
All right, let's go. I've lost track of what order everyone's called in on, so my apologies. All right. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. Once, twice. All right. That was a good. That was. Oh, he just came in at the end as I hit the hang up button. You can call back, guy, whoever you are. All right, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good morning, Brian. It's Patty from New Jersey.
Hey, Patty.
Hey, Pat.
How are you and Steve this morning?
All right.
Good.
Good. So, Brian, the one thing that I wanted to mention was you're saying that that Israel started this conflict, and I really think that it all is going back to what happened in October, and I think that the fact that they were the funding behind what happened in October, that Israel, now that they've kind of got things under control in Hamas, they're going to the main route and they're trying to eliminate the threats. I think they're tired of dealing with this constant, fear of being, terrorized by these people.
No, I agree. I mean, but here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing. When regime change was the stated goal of Iraq, we were told similar things that we're hearing about Iran. Oh, when we march into Baghdad, they'll be throwing roses and flowers, even though it's the desert at our soul. And we had a very violent insurgency. Iran is more advanced than Iraq, and they have terror cells probably in every major country in the world. And I don't know if regime change is a realistic thing when it comes to Iran, especially the plan is kill the entire leadership, including the Ayatollah, and put the Shah back in power. The Shah's daughter just married a Jewish businessman over the weekend. You think the Muslim world's going to accept a intermarriage Jewish family run in Iran? I
think you're thinking too much.
No, I think I know what's going on.
I mean, the bottom line is the Shaw, not the Shaw. You got me thinking upside down. Khomeini is a bad guy.
No kidding.
He's the one that's at the rooting of this nuclear drive that Iran seems to be on to try to nuke Israel and ultimately nuke us. And it's too close for comfort.
I think what you're talking about is the Fox News John Bolton propaganda that I don't believe.
Well, but the other thing is, though, Brian, is I mean, Netanyahu, not that I believe everything that he says, because I don't believe what anybody says anymore. I really don't. I believe Trump, but, I just have trouble believing anybody. But we know that Iran has a vendetta against Trump for taking out their generals.
Yes.
They said that they wanted to kill him. They have tried to assassinate him. Now Netanyahu is coming out and saying that he has, through intelligence, that Iran was backing proxies to try and take Trump out.
Correct.
So in any event, I think that what they're doing is they're fighting a battle, and as long as we don't have
hold on a second. We're all on the side of Israel, okay? But we're not talking about, but there's a couple things in play. Was Trump in favor of this attack on Iran before it happened? Do we really know?
We don't know, but I would imagine he was. I mean, anybody would be crazy to say no, they shouldn't have done it.
If you look at the history of President Trump, he has been anti-war his whole life, and was always in favor of alternative measures when possible. So all of a sudden, he's for total war.
Well, I don't know the factor you're leaving out that is a key factor is the nukes.
I don't believe
changes everything.
But they've been saying,
and not only that, and you're also forgetting the fact that this guy has a bullet hole marked on his head.
Yes.
They are definitely an evil regime, and they are truly the root of the evil on the earth.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And so, I mean, if there is a way that we can get it done, and Israel has got all the reason in the world to do what they're doing.
Listen, Fox News,
take care of it.
Fox News is basically military-industrial complex TV, okay? You can't trust these military experts. A lot of them work for military companies in their retirement, okay?
Correct.
And they're on there doing infomercials for war, all right? That's one. So you can't pay attention to any of that. And here's the thing. They keep promoting this idea, and I've seen this talked about many times from the experts, that the Iranian people don't support this. The Iranian people, when I say this, the government that they have over there, the Iranian people have known nothing different since 1979. And I'll tell you...
Yeah, but they're not the ones that have the guns.
No, I watch online, there's people inside Iran that have YouTube channels where they just walk around Iran, the cities and everything, Tehran. They go to shopping malls and everything. And the women don't have their face covered. Everybody, it's not what's really going on in Iran, I don't think is what we're told is going on in Iran.
Going on
in Iran. What are you having trouble believing?
I don't believe Netanyahu about them being this close to a nuke. I told you, Steve, there was this New York Times article from 1995, 30 years ago, that said they were 5 years away from a nuke. That means they've had it for 25 years.
And Brian, I 100% agree with you. Every time they're like, oh, they're days away, they're weeks away, they're constantly saying that, constantly. And I agree with that. And at one point you just get numb to hearing it and saying, yeah, well, maybe they are or maybe they aren't. We don't know. But do we want to find out? No,
well,
we don't.
I haven't heard President Trump say that. If President Trump came out, I believe President Trump 100% of the time. Okay, So if he came out and said, "Listen, we've got intel, we got information. They were a week away," that'd be different. But so far as this intelligence, the intelligence told us they had WMDs in Iraq. They didn't find jack. The intelligence agency had that fake dossier about Trump and Russia with the hookers. Come on, I don't trust. Now listen, I don't. I'm reluctant to keep talking this way because people will say, oh, you're supporting the Iranians, you don't support Israel. Just because I don't believe Netanyahu does not mean I don't support Israel, okay? I'm all in favor of regime change in Iran if it were possible, but we just got out of a 20-year war in Afghanistan, and how long did the insurgency go on in Iraq? Years. So, no, this is bad news.
No, and we lost lives there. It cost us a lot of money, and we're no better off now than we were then.
Iran is evil. They're evil. They are Satan on earth. Okay, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I don't believe that the Iranian people are against their leadership at the level that we've been told. I don't believe it. I just don't believe that.
Yeah, and they may not be. I mean, it's very hard to tell.
Can I tell? Let me tell you what turned me.
What did you just say?
I don't.
What are you saying? That
I don't think that. I think that
the intel is popular.
I do not believe. I do not believe intelligence agencies. No.
Right, but the other thing is the guy on YouTube. All right, it's very possible he's a propagandist, and you don't know. That's the problem.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what turned me. I'll tell you what got me to stop trusting Netanyahu. Okay, this was about 2 weeks ago. There's, and I'm going to get a lot of heat from this from people. I mean, give me a break. There's an online, and Steve won't know who this is, and a lot of you won't know either, but he's a big guy online. I'm not a big fan of this guy, but his name's Tim Pool. Okay, Steve? Yep. And Tim Pool, he's a millennial who's bald, who wears a winter cap during the summer to look like a hipster, but he's really covering up his bald head. And he has millions of followers, and he covers news and stuff. And he's a big fence sitter, middle of the road, doesn't take strong positions. But anyway, he became famous during the Occupy Wall Street movement. And he dropped something about 2 weeks ago that he wasn't supposed to drop on the air. He was invited to a private event with other online internet people like him, young people that are middle of the road, conservative and everything else, that have millions of followers. by Israel to an event that Netanyahu was at to sell them on the idea of war with Iran. This was about 2 weeks ago. And he wouldn't say who else was there because there was some confidentiality that they're supposed to maintain. And Netanyahu was there in person with these Instagram influencers and stuff, trying to convince them and sell the war on them. And he did a good job because, he's good. I've always liked Netanyahu. But
right.
he's
well,
let me finish. So when I see Netanyahu on Bret Baier, he's trying to do to us what he was doing to Tim Pool and these Instagram influencers, sell us on the war.
Right. Well, it's just that, like I said, the propaganda, and this was something that I had waited on hold a couple of weeks ago to get through to both of you, because I waited for Steve to come on, but the phones were so busy that day that I never made it. But the biggest problem is our media.
Yep.
And I know you guys would agree. And since you guys are in the business, I have a question for you. Why is it that if we know for sure that these TV stations and news stations are broadcasting false information and they're selling propaganda, that is biased towards, one way or the other, why is it that the FCC allows them to continue?
Well, first of all, slow down. FCC doesn't control cable and stuff in the internet. But the other thing is, if you start saying, well, the government says those are lies, or you're buying, every day, if you guys watch me online, I'm wearing a Make America Great Again hat and a Gulf of America t-shirt right now, right? So I'm very biased. What would stop them from coming after me and Steve saying that we're giving out disinformation? You don't want to be in an America where we start shutting people down because you don't like what they're saying. Then we'll all be shut down.
Yeah, but Brian, they have literally, the propaganda. There's their side, our side, and then there's the truth. And there's got to be a way for us to. There are things.
It is. You don't watch it.
Throw out there about Trump saying there's great people on both sides. We know for a fact that is false.
Correct.
Why can't they go after when they know 100% that it is false information?
I'm sure you noticed. Why do you think ABC News fired this moron guy that they just fired the other day? Okay.
Well, I think he did. I think they had no choice in that.
Well, because of what you are saying. Listen, we got to run, but we'll be right back. All right, hey Steve, I want to put you on hold. We're going to take our break. It's the Steve Kane Show. Oh, before we do that, let me talk about Coastal Weight Loss Secret. Oh man, I tell you, Steve, I just really, really love it. It feels so good to be so light and thin. It just does, and with Coastal Weight Loss Secret, I've lost close to, I don't know, around 40 pounds, close to 40 pounds, 37 pounds, something like that. And right now I'm just maintaining, and it's not hard. It's not hard. My daughter took me out for Father's Day lunch yesterday and to a Korean bar. You ever been to a Korean barbecue, Steve?
No.
Oh my goodness, she used to take me to them in L.A. I didn't know we had them in Florida. She took me to one in Coral Springs. You would love a Korean barbecue. It's all you can eat for 2 hours, but you got steak and pork and everything. It's like amazing. It's like a good steak too, not cheap stuff. But anyway, I ate like a king yesterday, and it's fine. I'm with Coastal Weight Loss Secret. I've lost all this weight. I feel great. I look great. I'm fitting in the clothes I haven't worn in over 20 years. It's absolutely amazing. And you can do the same thing. I lost about a pound a day. And remember, I lost about a pound a day eating foods I would normally eat. I'm not taking any prescription medications like Ozempic. And I'm doing zero exercise. Now, if I would have exercised, I would have lost the weight a little faster. But I thought losing about a pound a day without any exercise was pretty good, Steve. So I said, forget that. I'm not doing any exercise. And I still lost about a pound a day. Give them a call.
Exciting.
Yeah. And no matter where you're
located. Give them the number.
Steve, I'm doing that, okay? Steve's working me on in the commercial fast. I'm giving it out now. But I do want to say this. No matter where you're located in the United States, they can help you. And here's the number. 561-247-6300. 561-247-6300. and online, coastalweightlossecret.com. We'll be right back. I'm going to put you on hold for a minute, Steve. Hold on. Okay, you there, Steve?
Yes, I am.
All right, hold on. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Unbelievable. Boy. We got about a minute. We'll be back.
Okay.
All right, we're back. It's the Steve Kane Show. Steve Kane is here. I'm Brian. And you want to go back to the phone, Steve? What do you want to do?
Let's do the phones.
All right, our number is toll-free 1-888-465-2631. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
It's Steve from Boca, Brian. How are you? And thank you.
Okay,
let me tell you, Brian, I agree with you 97 times out of 100, but on this one, you're completely wrong, and please let me finish, and I'll be brief. I'll make my points. Number one, and please let me make the points because I have 3 or 4, and I'll get right to them. Ukraine gets hundreds of billions of dollars a year. Israel gets 3. The Iranians chant death to Israel, death to the United States. Mike Flynn, who I trust, Mossad's intelligence, I trust. Mike Flynn said that they're days away from a nuclear bomb. Israel is a little country. Up until the Abraham Accords, they were surrounded by countries that wanted them dead. It's a survival mentality. They ask for nothing.
Okay, get to the part where you're keeping it brief.
No,
okay.
he's,
They ask for nothing. Okay, let me tell you, if they didn't do the dirty work, then the United States would have to send in hundreds of thousands of troops to protect Saudi Arabia.
So I'm trying to figure out what you're saying here. Well, what's your point?
What I'm saying is that what they did was biblical, and years from now, people will look back at this and say it was a historic success. All because of Bibi Netanyahu.
I hope you're right. See, here's the thing.
All because of Bibi Netanyahu.
Okay, now here's the thing.
It's a surgical. It was a surgical attack.
Okay, hold on a second. Oh my goodness, you're a man of a few thousand words, but I understand you're passionate. Okay, but here's the thing. Not including this. Okay, when have we gotten into a war that was based on intelligence where the intelligence was accurate?
I trust Mossad's intelligence. For whatever reason, Brian and Steve, they are lights out better than everybody else. Why they are, I don't know, and you don't know. But the fact is they are. They don't attack civilians.
But
they attack
listen,
people.
Listen, I want the Iranian regime gone too. Don't misunderstand me, okay? But what I see going on, we've got this European conflict that could spiral out of control because Ukraine and Putin are both nuts, and they don't want to end it.
You're watching too much Steve Bannon, Brian. You're watching.
I'm watching President Trump and Carolyn Levitt are telling us all the people that are dying every day on both sides. Okay, that could spiral out of control.
Everybody in the Abraham Accords, whoever signed on to the Abraham Accords, is thrilled that Israel did what they did.
All right, appreciate the call. Okay, he's not brief, but that's the way it is.
Not brief.
But what I'm telling you is I don't unless I hear President Trump come out and say.
But you got to understand.
I don't believe it.
What you're leaving at is the stakes. A mistake is a mistake, but all mistakes are not equal. To make a mistake on the timing of the nuclear moment is a fatal mistake.
If it's
not the same thing.
What I was telling, this is what I keep
telling.
I keep repeating the same thing over and over. For 30 years, we've been hearing they're this far away, they're this close, and I just don't believe it.
That's a reason never to take action?
I don't. Every war we've gotten into based on intelligence has been wrong. Vietnam, Operation Iraqi Freedom.
So you don't believe they're really close to a weapon?
I don't know how close they are. No, I don't necessarily believe it.
What would you say if you're wrong? What would you say?
I was wrong. I was wrong.
Oops.
I was wrong, and then I was right.
Okay. Oops.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Oops. Yeah. And by the way, that means President Trump coming out and saying they were days away, which I have not heard him say. All right, let's we got time. We'll squeeze some more people in. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, my name is Kazi. I'm from California.
Okay.
Oh, the land of the fruits and nuts.
That's for sure.
Yeah, sure, whatever you say. I'm just calling in to remind both of you that y'all are fucking bitches.
Okay, there we go. Okay, all right, there we go. Second dump of the day, Mike. Second dump of the day.
Anger looking for somewhere to go.
Yeah. I guess the No Kings event in his area didn't get it out. If you're on hold, hang in there while we wait for the delay to re-engage. We don't... The only...
You think he was offended by the fruits and nuts?
I don't know, just an average Democrat. You should have been with me, Steve, when I went to the No Kings event in Fort Lauderdale Beach. Oh my goodness, what was it
like?
Well, what I did is I went one of my friend Dan, who goes on the cruises with us on our MAGA cruises. Dan, Dan, he's the one who met Don. They're engaged and everything. He went with me, the two of us, and my wife. I was talking to my wife, and I'm like, "Oh, Dan's here," but these people are really, making us nervous. And my wife said, if you get nervous, just hold each other's hands and they'll think you're one of them, because it was all old gay people, Steve. There were
words of wisdom from Kathy.
Oh my goodness. No, but they had a large turnout. There were about 2,000 people there at the height of the thing. At the same time, by the way. I'm not talking about the course of hours. There was about 2,000 people there at one time at the height of it. But so what? I mean, they were all 90% of them were gay, okay, and 98% of them were over the age of 55. I saw, and this is not exaggerating, okay, I saw about 4 people under the age of 40. 4. Keep in mind, 2,000. And when you're in Fort Lauderdale, you're in the gay activist capital of the world on the East Coast of the United States. You got San Francisco's the West Coast. We got the East Coast. So, you know, I mean, so the number of people there meant nothing. But I interviewed people, Steve, for the internet, and I went undercover. I was undercover MAGA. I didn't wear my MAGA hat. And some of the stuff first guy I went up to, his sign said, United with LA. So I asked him to tell me what his sign, you know, what that meant. You know what he told me?
What?
He didn't know what was on his sign. Somebody just handed it to him.
Oh, yes. That's pretty typical.
Yeah. And I found these.
If you look at it, you know,
Yeah.
it's interesting you bring that up. It's an important point. You can tell a lot about what's going on in a demonstration, not from listening to the pros that are, you know, walking around looking for television cameras, but you can tell a lot by looking at the signs and asking yourself, was this something that an activist, you know, just scribbled down in their backyard on the way out the door,
Yeah.
or is this something that was produced by a union and people with a lot of money that had thousands of dollars to put into it?
Yeah,
and you'll find that most of these are professionals.
Oh yeah, and I actually got embedded with the organizers, and it was a funny thing. I got this all on video, Steve. They were staging a photo op, and they brought out a stepladder to stand on to take the picture. They had 4 guys. None of them could figure out how to open up a stepladder. These liberal guys, you know what I mean? I got it all on. I recorded the whole thing. It's hilarious. All right, Steve, I'm going to put you on hold. It's time for the top of the hour break. After the break, the delay is re-engaged. We'll be back to the phones after the break. It's the Steve Kane Show. I'm Brian Craig. Our number 888-465-2631. Back after this. Steve, you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, you should have seen these. They had 4 or 5 guys. None of them could open up a stepladder. They didn't know how to do it. I couldn't believe it. I did not.
That's funny.
Oh my gosh. And this one guy, they go to take a group picture, and one of the guys had this sign that said Trump is Hitler, had a swastika, and they went and told him to put the sign down. And he said, this is out on the beach. We're out by the ocean. And he says, well, that doesn't sound like free speech to me if I can't have my sign. And they got into a little scuff. And I interviewed this one guy. He had a sign said I'm going to pee on Trump's grave. And he's like 80 years old. And he's got this whole plan, him and his buddies, wherever they bury Trump, he and his buddies are going to go and pee on his grave, he said. I couldn't believe it. He's, you know.
Yeah, charmer.
The sign. He said the sign. He was one of the straights. He said the sign says I'm going to pee on Trump's grave, and he said originally I wrote piss, but my daughter said I should say pee, so I changed it to pee, so it wasn't as offensive.
Boy, what a bunch!
I know, they were losers. So this one guy. He's dressed up as a clown, right? He's supposed to be Trump, and he's a king. And I said, well, you know, a lot of what people would say is he just won a national election in all the battleground states. Doesn't that mean he's the duly elected Democratic leader, not a king? And he says, well, he only won by 2 million votes. I mean, these people, he's like, you know. Yeah, it was fun.
You sound like you have a lot of fun with it. That's good.
Oh my gosh. If I would have gone in with my MAGA hat, it would have not been safe. It wouldn't have been safe. They were very angry.
Hostile gaze?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It would not have gone well.
They're into violence.
Yeah. Yeah. And there were too many of them.
Yeah.
Too many. It wasn't like when I went to that Tesla thing, it wasn't that many. There were like maybe a couple hundred. This was a couple thousand.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Brian, you there?
Yeah. I'm going to put you on hold for a minute, Steve. I answer these calls. Hold
okay.
on. You there, Steve? Hold on. Hey, hold on. All right, we are back. I'm Brian Craig. Steve Kane is here.
Are you there?
I am always here, Steve. All right.
Okay, we lost
yeah,
contact
I know.
briefly.
Well, that's okay. We're back now. All right, the third hour has begun on this MAGA morning. I do want to mention, because it's important, 10 years ago today, President Trump came down the escalator, which is very exciting. And for 10 years, Trump has dominated every single moment, 24 hours a day of the news cycle.
That's for sure.
And that's pretty amazing. Sure. All right, you want to take some more of these calls?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's hopefully we do better than the last one there from California. All right, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name's Zach.
All right, Zach, take care. Yeah, Zach. All right, appreciate the call. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Well, this is Patrick calling from Deerfield.
Patrick in Deerfield.
Morning, Brian. Good morning, Steve. So, I mean, the thought that was going through my head all weekend was just how pathetic is the left that they can't even name a protest without a straw man. They named a protest against Donald Trump, no kings. Donald Trump isn't a king. He's never claimed to be a king. He's never expressed a desire to be a king. So basically, it's essentially just a protest against something that doesn't exist. And
they're desperate. They're desperate.
I compare it to like the Iranian-style Day of Rage when Khomeini would proclaim, "Oh, everybody has to be angry today." Like, what are we angry about exactly?
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what it was. I mean, this is my observation. And again, I went completely undercover. I didn't wear my MAGA hat or MAGA shirt, okay? I went undercover as a gay with Dan. But this is what it really was. It was a group therapy session. These are people that are suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. And the reason I point out that they're very old, I'm not against old people. We're all getting older, right? But that they're all mostly senior citizens and gay. They're you know, you ever hear that story, which I found out was true. I had no idea it was true, about that Japanese soldier in the Philippines that thought the war was going on until like the 70s, right? Yeah. That's what they're like. They have won all their gay rights, and they still are fighting for in a war that they won. The gay rights battle's been won in their favor. And they still think they're oppressed. They still think they're victims. And there's a couple things going on. And it was a group therapy session. One, it was Trump derangement suffering people who need to get an outlet for their rage. You know, like you beat a pillow or something. They got to get it out. You know. And also, you know, since I grew up down here in South Florida, on occasion I run into people I went to high school with, okay? And it's pretty cool, but every once in a while I'll run into somebody that I went to high school with that are in arrested development. They peaked in high school. And and to them, they're always trying to relive the glory days of high school as opposed to today. These are people that are trying to relive the glory days of their gay activism in the 60s, 70s, 80s, the Vietnam War. They're just a bunch of old fogies. They're irrelevant. And when I say there were about... go ahead. Yeah, there were about 4 people under the age of 40.
It's like, for me, it's kind of like a lot of people seem to like historical role-playing. Oh, we're the French underground fighting the Nazi Germany. Oh, we're the Boston Tea Party giving the middle finger to King George III. I'm like, no, why are you trying to steal their valor? Why are you trying to equate your petty political squabbles to people who gave up everything to save this, to basically to give birth to this country and to save it and to end real fascism, not your pretend, you're mildly more aggressive immigration policies than President Obama fascism. So
yeah. Well, Democrats
sad and pathetic.
See, Democrats in all their arrogance, they don't understand what's going on. The Democrats believe that they represent the people, that and they have not accepted that they're a minority party now. And the thing about the age is important. When I say there were 4 people under the age of 40, that is not an exaggeration. Okay, it's a dying outlet. They're not bringing in new people. The whole movement is dying off.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that
they're in big trouble.
Going through my head is at what point does the Democratic Party and the left at large realize, hey, calling Trump Hitler for 10 years hasn't exactly worked? At what point do they realize it might not work if we keep calling him and all his supporters Nazis even harder?
Exactly.
And
you know what?
Moderating your platform.
I was talking. Today is 10 years since Trump came down the escalator. I have seen almost. I cannot say I've seen. I've seen almost every speech he's given in 10 years. I've seen almost every rally and almost every interview. Okay, you never hear Trump say anything bad about the voters, even the Democrat ones. Okay, he'll attack the politicians. And he might say, to hecklers, he might say, go home to mommy, or something. But he never attacks the Democrat voters. Never.
Right.
And if you go back all the way to 10 years till today, you'll see that. And all they do is attack us. We're racist. We're this. We're that.
Yeah.
Okay. Good luck.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Have a nice day.
All right. Take care. Nice guy. I almost don't know how to talk to normal people on the phone, Steve. We talk to so many weirdos and dysfunctional freaks. Before we go to the next call, though, I want to tell you guys there's a great deal going on right now, Steve, on the MyPillow 100% Giza Cotton Dream Sheets. And these are the best. Giza Cotton it's the finest cotton in the world. Mike Lindell sheets are 100% Giza Cotton. And I don't know what it is about Mike Lindell and these Giza Cotton sheets, but no matter what the temperature is, you are Goldilocks. You are the perfect temperature all night long. Here in the hot summers when it's like in the 90s at night, it's like having an air conditioning inside your under your sheets. It's amazing. You're the perfect. In the winter, you're warm. I don't know what it is. But right now, Steve, all sizes and colors are just $49.98 with our promo code Kane, just $49.98. The regular price is $109.98. So this is a deep, deep, deep discount. And they come in every size. Again, all sizes, all colors, same price. Twin, Twin XL, Full, Queen, RV Queen, King, Split King, even California King. So go to mypillow.com and use our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane, and order yours. Okay, so can we just get back on track before we go back to the phone calls? What you and I are disagreeing on is really, when it comes to the Israeli-Iran war, is the timing. We're both in favor of regime change in Iran, but is now the time? And is regime change even possible? And I would like to think it is, but I don't believe it is. I just don't. And, there have been some instances of regime change working out. Okay, so I wouldn't say it's, Japan, Germany. We had regime change,
you know what
too, in this country.
The difference, I'm listening very carefully to what you say. You know the difference between what you're saying and what I'm saying? The difference is the nuclear issue, okay? Because everything you're saying, in my opinion, the difference between you and I, all the arguments against taking this jerk and his administration, I'm talking about the Ayatollah, against taking him out, pale in comparison when you realize that the effect of being wrong is Israel not existing.
Well, the difference is,
vaporized.
Yes, you believe the intelligence and I don't.
You can't discuss it. You can't. When those are the stakes, you can't discuss it like a normal issue.
You and I don't. I don't necessarily believe the intelligence, and you do. That's where we're disagreeing.
That you don't think that they're working on a nuclear bomb and they're weeks away?
No.
You don't believe that?
No, maybe not. No. Trump hasn't said that.
But do you realize what the consequences are if you're making a mistake on that question?
But they've been saying that for 30 years. That's why I don't believe it anymore.
They haven't been saying we're a week away.
They've been saying that since years. I've been hearing that for years.
Last week.
No. I've been hearing that for weeks. I just don't know. All right, let's take another call or two, and then before the break. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, hi. This is Art from Boca.
Hey, Art.
Hey.
Listen, two things. One, I agree with you about the administration. They have to be careful, and Trump taking out a head of state. After all, he's a head of state, too. But the one thing that I think you got wrong, Iran attacked Israel. You forgot about that. Over 200 drones and missiles, they attacked them. And then Israel retaliated. They had to take out the air defense first. And it was just a matter of time when they were going to hit them again, and they hit them again.
Well, wait a minute. No.
I
didn't forget. I heard it. I heard the first time, okay? I'm reluctant. I hate saying what I'm about to say because it sounds like I'm defending Iran, which is correct. I'm not. That drone strike was a retaliation to the first strike by Israel. Israel hit first. The drones were a response.
That is the way I heard it.
No.
I heard Iran hit Israel, and then Israel attacked them.
No, that's not what happened. No.
And now they've come back with a second and
But
third
listen,
wave.
Iran is behind all the Islamic terrorism in the world, including the October 7th attack out of Gaza. We all know this, okay? Iran's behind all the Islamic terrorism. All that's true, but we're talking about this total war between the two countries. Israel hit
This is
first.
right now, but this is a continuation of the original attack by Iran, which was the first time they directly attacked Israel.
Israel
that I
attacked
know
first.
about.
Israel attacked first. That was the response.
That isn't the way I heard it.
Well, you heard wrong. You heard
okay?
wrong. You heard wrong.
What were the 200 missiles and drones that hit Israel first?
Israel launched a military airstrike that was coordinated by Mossad agents on the ground in Iran. The drones.
That was now.
What
happened?
No, the
a
drones.
Number of months ago.
The drones was a response to that. Hey, listen, we got to run for the break, okay? But look it up. You'll see I'm right. All right. Appreciate the call, though. Art from Boca. All right. Oh, hold on, Steve. I'm going to put you on hold. The rest of you on hold. Stand by. We'll be right back. Okay, you there, Steve?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to put you on hold again. Hold on. Okay, you there, Steve?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Okay, one more time, Steve. Hold on. All right, you there, Steve?
Yes.
Okay, hold on. Okay, about 30 seconds. Oh. The show's flying by.
Yeah.
I got to call you. Don't say what it is because everybody can hear. I'm going to call you later today about that thing we were talking about on Friday, that deal I'm working on.
Which one?
I don't want to say what it is, but just answer my phone call when I call you. All right, we'll be back.
Okay.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show. Steve Kane is here, and, well, we got a full board of calls. You want to take some calls?
Yes.
All right, let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Free Palestine. Fuck you. Donald Trump is a fucking bitch.
Okay, there we go. All right. That's the third time we had to use the dump button
same
today.
guy that,
No, it's not the same, believe it or not. It's just the same vocabulary.
They all sound alike.
Well, you know, when you're using that type of language...
Brain-dead zombies.
That's right. Pod people.
But they're fun.
Oh, yeah. They know. They think they got... We're on delay. Nothing you say is heard over the air. We're on a delay. And the delay is very long. I mean, my goodness. But, you know, this is so true. When I went to see Dr. Appleton and I had all that pain in my hand and he examined me, he says, Brian, you have arthritis in your index finger. And I thought it was strange and this is true story, guys. I only had arthritis in my index finger, and arthritis is the worst. I was almost in tears. The arthritis pain would get so bad, Steve. It would get so bad. I just wanted to go to sleep, you know? And the reason I only had arthritis in my index finger and not the other fingers in my hand, that's the finger I use for the dump button on the show. And every studio we have had, I have the dump button on my right side. So I always use that same index finger. So 30 years of hitting the dump button from our liberal callers, I developed arthritis in my index finger. And Dr. Appleton treated me with his laser away pain treatment. The arthritis is gone. It's gone. It's amazing. And I don't know. Do you have arthritis, Steve?
No, but my daughter Adrian suffers badly from arthritis.
Oh, you got to send her to Dr. Appleton. You know, when I had arthritis just in my finger, the pain was so bad, I would be like on the verge of tears. And it's that pain that's so bad, you just go to sleep, you know? Oh, let me just go to sleep.
She can't function.
Well, she should go see Dr. Appleton.
She's having an attack.
One of our listeners on the cruise, he had arthritis in his neck. Dr. Appleton rid him of his arthritic pain in his neck. And I've talked to many of our listeners who have gone in for arthritis. It's amazing. Now, remember, with Dr. Appleton performs all the laser treatments himself, okay? There's no shots, no injections, no drugs, no downtime. Did I say no shots? That's important. Oh, yeah, and it works. That's the best part. You know, give him a call. Say bye-bye to your pain. Also, appointments are not necessary, and walk-ins are welcome, even on Saturdays. 954-973-0710. 954-973-0710. And online, AppletonCairo.com. Okay, so we're back. So what, I mean, I'm as opposed to just continuing to disagree on whether or not they're so close to the nuke, what is your opinion on what the end game should be with Israel and Iran? Regime change?
There's only one end game here, and that is that eventually the nukes will get taken out. We just have to hope that it happens before Iran has a chance to fire first.
Okay. All right. Let's go. Back to the phones. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Morning, Steve and Brian. It's JJ from Mass.
Hey, JJ.
Hey, JJ.
Hey, Steve. A lot of interesting conversation today. This, do you know the economist, Steve, by the name of Paul Krugman? Or Brian, have you heard of him?
Of course. Yeah, that jerk from the New York Times.
Yeah, that he's a Democrat propaganda prostitute for the economy.
That's for sure.
Democrats, everything the Democrats do is lovely and great, and the Republicans stink, etc. Well, like 50 years ago, he stated, like every year for like 30 years in a row, that there was going to be a recession. He just kept saying it, like the boy who cried wolf, you know. And eventually, it happened.
Yes.
And my point is this: is that 30 years ago, Brian, Iran did not have, they didn't have 20,000 centrifuges spinning 24/7, and if they're a week away from a nuclear bomb, we're like a year late. I just think, you did say it's a mess earlier, and I was going to say those three words I agree with 100%. But talking about who bombed who first, it sounds like an Abbott and Costello routine.
Well, the guy brought it up. I got to
79.
respond. You know, listen,
Well,
I was
got you.
talking to a friend of mine. I'm not going to say who this is because I don't know if they want this known. But it's a friend of both of ours, Steve. Their daughter happens to be in Israel right now. And I called them up over the weekend and said, "How's your daughter doing?" She's in a bomb shelter. I was like, "Oh, my goodness."
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Yep. So, you know, Iran, I told Steve about a half hour ago, Iran is Satan on earth.
Absolutely.
Satan on earth. There's no, I don't disagree with that. And I'd love that regime to be gone. But I am really worried that we got too many fronts going on here. And President Trump has been anti-war his whole life. And for him all of a sudden to have signed off on total war, I just don't buy it.
Well, I don't think we're at total. I mean, we are not at total war with. I mean, I don't see us getting any further involved other than, I mean, we have weapons, standoff weapons, like the JASM, the Rapid Dragon. We can put up 10 C-17s and have 450 cruise missiles going into a country. We're not going to be putting boots on the ground. Israel has Mossad. I don't think this is going to last very long. But, you know, when you'd also talked about the assassination, you know, that it's against the law. Is actually I'm pretty sure that goes back to like Nixon, Ford.
The bottom line, the difference between all this discussion, if you boil it down, the difference is I would rather, given the stakes, I would rather err on the side of caution.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And listen, a direct assassination.
Do I get an absolutely from you, Brian?
Easy to say in Cooper City as opposed to being in a bomb shelter in Jerusalem.
Well, I'm saying that of your position.
Well, they've been bombing, though. They've been. I mean, listen, October 7th, they've sent missiles in. They've been sending missiles in, whether it's Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis. They've been firing rockets for I don't know how many decades. And
I don't think they've fired any of the big bunker busters, which is what they need from us.
Oh yeah, we haven't fired, but I'm just saying that they have been firing at Israel for the last, forever. They've been firing bombs. Every single rocket that has gone into Israel, one way or another, Iran was involved in it. Just like Iran was involved in all the IEDs in the wars that crippled our soldiers. But listen, being killed in direct action, in a non-direct way. In other words, a direct assassination would be illegal according to something. But attacking this guy, I want them. I want him gone. And I don't know if the.
Thanks for your call.
I don't know if we'll be better off, Steve.
Okay. All right. Take care. All right. We're coming up on the bottom of the hour, so we don't have time to take another call and give you a fair shot at the conversation. So if you're on hold, hang in there. Our number is toll free 1-888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call no matter where you're listening. We'll be right back. Steve, you there?
Yes, I am.
Right, stand by. Okay, hold on. I'm going to put you on hold for a second, Steve. All right. You there, Steve?
Yes.
Okay, hold on. Okay. I took the break a little early to give us a longer time between now and Youngerman to talk in this.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Okay.
The pace is going good.
Yeah. I'll put you on hold one more time. Hold on. Steve? Okay, I keep losing you during the breaks. Hold on.
But we're picking
Okay, gotcha.
up.
I got you,
That'll
Steve. You
work.
there, Steve? Yeah, we're still in break, so hold on. We'll be back in a minute or so.
Brian, are you there?
Yeah, we're coming back in a few seconds. Stand by.
Brian, I think I've
Hold
lost you.
on. No, I got you. Are you there? Oh, my goodness. Steve, you there?
No, I've got you.
Okay. Stand by. Welcome back, everyone. It's the Steve Kane Show. I'm Brian Craig. This is Florida's longest-running radio show. Steve Kane here as well. Well, let's go back to the phone, Steve. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Gossip pedophile, no kings. Fuck you, maggot bitches. Fuck you, maggot bitches.
There we go. That's the fourth time, and that's fine. That's what are you gonna do? I got to tell you, the next. Whenever there's a Republican in office, Democrats are not happy. All right, I think it was at the fourth or fifth dump today. That's a given. But even during,
well, that guy's just deranged.
But Steve, no, they all are. They all are.
Can you imagine? Well, some more than others. Can you imagine walking around feeling like that all day?
We had to put up with 8 years of Obama. You and I weren't happy. We weren't going around freaking out. We weren't having beachside group therapy sessions. We didn't develop a new mental illness. We didn't have Obama derangement syndrome. We just wrote it out. We had this senile old coot in the White House for 4 years, and the country was being run by this auto pen. Exactly. And they had this auto pen committee, and we just dealt with it.
But I've never seen a political party destruct as totally as the Democrats have this time around. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, there basically is no alternate party. You think about it.
Well, they've lost a lot of their key people to MAGA, right? I mean, that's part of it. So and the people that are left behind, well, what are you going to do?
They lost everybody.
Yeah. So, but let's get control of the discussion, though. Okay. We were talking about that caller at the end, and there seems to be, there is no group of people in the United States who are more suspicious of intelligence reports than MAGA people. And other than me, every MAGA caller we've gotten on the program, you and I have been talking about this for an hour or so, they all believe what you say is true. that Iran was days, weeks, maybe even already had the nukes.
Do you understand why?
Why do they believe it now? No, I don't.
Why do they believe? Well, no. Why do they believe what I'm saying?
No, I don't.
Well, it's because I'm right.
Yeah, I am just, Steve, I am just so burned.
Sometimes a banana is just a banana.
Yeah. I'm just so burned on these intelligence agencies. I don't believe anything they report. Okay? So that's just the way it is. And it's I need to hear President Trump tell me before I'll believe it. And I'm surprised, and I'm not saying you guys are wrong. Okay? I mean, I think we agree on a lot.
You don't believe Mark Levin?
No. The Mark Levin is not no. I don't trust Mark Levin.
You don't think he's is objective?
No, I do trust Tucker, and Tucker disagrees with Levin on this.
Well, Tucker, I don't know what's going on with Tucker.
You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi there, Brian. Louise, the masked lady in Boca. I have to agree with you, Brian. From what I recall, President Trump was due to negotiate with Iran, if I recall. Wasn't that so?
He was what had happened was President Trump was involved in negotiations over this with Iran. He gave them a 60-day notice. He said he said Israel's coming to get you. I can hold them off for 60 days. And the attack that Israel made last week was on day 61.
Well, I do agree with you. I would have waited to see what they were going to say with President Trump and not have acted so hastily.
But you know, all right, I appreciate the call. Now, I just saw this story, Steve, and this is out of the Daily Mail. And it says Israel says it has full air superiority over Tehran right now.
That's because they have no Air Force.
Well, yeah, and they took out the leader of the Air Force. So it's also possible, okay? Listen, this is a developing thing, and we're living through it. But, Steve, there's never been a war where they're always saying these wars are going to be over in a month or 6 weeks, and sometimes they go on for 20 years or 10 years. But it is possible that a lot of the hype out of Iran that we've been hearing about their military in general is propaganda, right? I mean, if they've already taken out their Air Force, which is crazy to me, you would think they would have a very strong Air Force after all these years. How'd they do that so quick?
Well, they don't need it in the Air Force to take out the nukes.
No, but they took out the Air Force, and they took out the leaders of the air. Whoever's running the military now are the third, fourth, fifth guys. They're not, the top guys are gone. I heard one of these retired lieutenant generals or colonels or majors on Fox on Friday. I don't remember which one it was, but you guys may have heard this. And I listen to their analysis. I just don't know how accurate it is. And he was saying that they believe that, that means us and Israel, that the Iranian military, because it's a dictatorship, right? It's a theocracy, not a dictator. It's a theocracy. That the military rank and file are not able to run themselves without their top generals. And he said this, he says, if we lost our top generals and admirals, he says the military in the United States would continue. It would be inconvenient. It would be some problems, but the way the chain of command works, it would be fine, right? And he said the Iranian military doesn't operate that way. So if you cut the heads of the snake of the military off, they're not going to be able to run, because in a theocracy, they're running by fear and things like this. I don't know. But all of my opinions on all of this is based on the Iraq War experience, which was a disaster. I mean, we got in there and took over right away, and we had this 10-year insurgency going on. And you see them all in the Wounded Warrior commercials on Fox every day. And even after Saddam was executed, I remember there was when the judge that handled the Saddam Hussein arraignment, they killed him. The insurgents killed that judge. Remember that judge? Yeah. So that insurgency went on even after Saddam was captured and executed. And now I could be very wrong about this, but if the people of Iraq were so fanatical about that lunatic with his crazy sons, I would think that the people of Iran are more sympathetic towards their government because their government's nothing like Saddam and his psycho sons were. Raping girls on the streets and torturing the Olympic team and all of that in Iraq. We know all that stuff was true. And they had a lot of loyalty over there. So I just, I'm not where you guys are so far as getting us into war. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Michael, Palm Beach Gardens. What was that restaurant you said? Was it all you could eat? Was that yesterday?
I'm not giving out free. I'm not giving out free plugs to restaurants, but it was a Korean barbecue. They're not a sponsor.
What town was it in?
I'm not going to give free publicity to it.
All right, no problem. Okay. Also, I'm scheduled to go on the cruise, the 10th anniversary in March, and Steve, we sat together the last evening. We had the prime ribs of beef on the last cruise.
Oh,
I remember you.
Yeah, is it your wife Joy or Joyce? Joy?
No, Lori.
No, my wife is Lori.
Oh, Lori, there you go. Yeah, we're looking forward to another cruise with you guys, and
yeah, I remember you. I'll tell you what. On the cruise, I'll tell you the name of the restaurant in March. So you have to wait till we get.
Okay, good. What the heck was I going to ask you? Let me just think. So you were in Lauderdale. Was it yesterday, Brian?
You're still trying. You're trying to do detective work on the. Saturday I went to the No Kings March on Fort Lauderdale Beach. Yes.
Okay. I think New York City has the greatest gay population.
You mean the largest?
Lauderdale.
Well, I'm talking about per capita.
Well,
I'm not talking about the actual number of people. I'm talking about per capita with the population. I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, okay? And it's a gay city now. There's very few straights there.
Let me just think. The last weekend of June is always Gay Pride. Did they do that again in June?
I'm sure they do. Yeah, this was a little preview of the Gay Pride Day.
That's a national event. Okay, have a good one. Good talking to you guys.
All right, we'll see you on the cruise. After the No Kings protest, my friend Dan and I from the cruises, we went across the street to this bar and to have beers. Right, and they had Guinness on tap. And he and I'm drinking my Guinness.
Guinness.
Oh, I know. I had 3 of them. I'm sorry. No, I had 2 Guinness and a Corona.
Is the best.
2 Guinness and a Corona. And I got a ticket. I stayed past my meter. I don't know how much the tickets are. I'm going to find out today. But anyway, the meter maid got me. But anyway, so we're in this bar. We're all alone because all the people were at the protest. Then the protest ended. They came over. And we found ourselves, this was Saturday, Dan and I found ourselves in a gay bar. There was nobody there when we got there, but we were the only straights in there, and it was standing room only. So I was in a gay bar with Dan on Saturday, basically. I don't know if it's an official gay bar, but it was, what do they call those things? Pop-up. It was a pop-up gay bar, at least for that time. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, when we were leaving... Because, we had left our MAGA hats in the car so we could infiltrate the No Kings rally. There were 2 women who were wearing MAGA hats. They wouldn't seat them. They couldn't get a table, they told us, because of their MAGA hats, which seems to me to be a violation of the law. I don't know. All right, that's the tolerant left. If you're on hold, stand by. No, actually, we got time for a call or 2. Let me take another call or 2. Hold on. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, America. Hey, Steve, you really had me laughing out loud with the fruits and nuts. I've never heard that before. Very ironic, because fruits and nuts is California.
Okay, all right, yeah, okay. Oh, my goodness. I guess California wants to prove to us that they are a land of nuts. Oh, my goodness.
Fruits and nuts.
Yeah, fruits and nuts, that's correct. Fruits and nuts with emphasis on, I don't know, either one. They kind of go together.
Fruits.
Yeah, well, whatever. But I want to tell everyone about Coastal Weight Loss Secret before we break. And this is amazing. Losing weight. This is the big thing about Coastal Weight Loss Secret. I was very nervous about doing this, okay? because I thought I was going to have to starve myself, and that the food I would be eating would be little tiny bits of food that never filled me up and it tasted awful. None of that was true. I thought when I went and met with Dr. Zuckerman at Coastal Weight Loss Secret, when I came out, I was going to come out with a box of specialty foods. I didn't. I eat foods I would normally eat. That's why I was talking about going out on Father's Day with my daughter yesterday. Went out to a regular restaurant, I had the regular food right there off the menu. And I lost all this weight, about 1 pound a day. You can do the same as well. And two things we're finding, which is amazing. A lot of our listeners, Steve, are going in as couples, husbands and wives, because, if you're a couple, you're probably eating the same things. So you might both probably need to lose a little weight or want to lose a little weight. And we have couples that are going in together. And we also have listeners from all over the United States that are calling Coastal Weight Loss Secret. That's right. They can help you no matter where you are located. The number is 561-247-6300. 561-247-6300. The most common question people ask me about this is, what's the secret? Well, they'll tell you when you give them a call. 561-247-6300. And online, coastalweightlossecret.com. All right, we're going to take our last break of the day and be right back. All right, Steve, I'm going to put you on hold so I can call William. All right, hold on.
Okay.
Hey there. Hold on. Steve, you there? Steve? Hey, hold on.
Brian?
Yep, Steve, stand by. I'm going to conference William in, okay?
Brian, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Barely.
All right, hold on. All right, Steve, you there?
Yes, I can hear you better now.
Okay, I'm going to conference William in, okay? Hold on. All right, William, stand by. 10 seconds. Welcome back. It's the Steve Kane Show. Steve Kane is here. I'm Brian Craig, and it's time to check in with William Youngerman from the offices of William Youngerman Incorporated with our first look at gold and the other precious metals for the week. William Youngerman, how are the metals opening up this week?
Metals are pretty much mixed. All the white metals are up. Gold is slightly lower, but overnight we saw gold trade in a range of $3,408 all the way up to $3,452. Right now we're at $3,413, pulling back about $18 right now. Silver up 17 cents at $36.40 the ounce. Platinum up $36 at $1,264, and palladium up $23 at $1,051. The dollar is much weaker and showing weakness. Oil prices, of course, going higher, and the anticipation of increased inflation is going to be pushing gold and other metals much higher, we believe, at this point.
Yeah, you've been talking a lot about these platinum. What's going on with platinum? It's up again.
Yeah, platinum was finally viewed for what it was, way undervalued for a strategic metal that is 15 times rarer than gold and used in a host of many industrial products that we need it for, including catalytic converters as well as palladium.
Yeah.
So both of these white metals are heading higher, and they were dramatically suppressed there for a while. And silver doing very well now, above $36 an ounce.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Listen, William Youngerman opens up at 10 a.m. He's located at 150 East Palmetto Park Road in Boca, which is on the first floor of the Bank of America building, immediately east of US 1 Federal Highway on the south side of Palmetto Park Road. His number is toll-free, 800-327-5010, 1-800-327-5010. And find both his phone number and address on his website, WilliamYungerman.com. All right, William Youngerman, we'll talk tomorrow.
Okay, have a great day. Thanks.
All right, take care. All right, we're back. You back, Steve?
Yes, I am.
Okay, there is a fallacy in my Iraq war comparisons to regime change. Okay, I'll tell you what that is. Oh, this is, sometimes, since nobody on the phones has been able to figure out.
I always admired, told people you have an open mind, and you see I was right.
Steve, I want this I want Iran back to a free country and a partner in the world, not led by, the Ayatollah Khomeini here. You know what I mean? We agree on all that. And this is very true, okay? And I think most people, regardless of what side they're on, will agree with what I'm about to say. Most of my opinions about regime change problems revolve around Iraq and Afghanistan, right? Because we had a 20-year war in Afghanistan. This thing in Iraq went on for years with the insurgency. But the Iraq in particular was run by George Bush and Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney and George Bush are line war criminals. They knew darn well there was no WMDs there. That they are not like Trump. They didn't want the war to end, all right? They're the like John Bolton types. They're for a total war all the time forever. So Trump's not that way. With Israel and Iran, Trump doesn't want a prolonged conflict. He wants it over. It's like in Vietnam. Vietnam was not fought in a way to win the war. It was fought in a way to prolong the war for as long as possible to feed the military-industrial complex, right? I think most people agree with that today. Same very well could have been true for Iraq. I mean, So the fact that regime change was so disastrous in Iraq, what I'm telling you is it may have been by design by Bush and Cheney to be a disaster. Does that make sense what I'm saying? That they didn't want it to... Now we've got Trump if somebody else were president, they wouldn't let Netanyahu fight the war to win it. They would let him, if he started the war, they would let him fight it to a certain point, but not to win it. And he's got Trump on. And even though Trump says, oh, you can't take out the supreme leader, that's almost like wink, wink. You can't take out the supreme leader. All right, I'm telling you, double warning. It's not an emotional, like, you better not or else. Because Trump wants him gone too, because they have the hit squads after him.
We made an attempt to get him, and we missed this time.
We're not Israel did, not us. We're not Israel.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, okay. So if you're on hold, stand by. Our number is 1-888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call no matter where you listen. But, hey, listen, it's one of those things. I don't like to do these discussions. Oh, we should have done this. They shouldn't have done that. I mean, we're where we are now. So we got to deal with where we are, right? That's,
where we are is pretty close to a nuclear device for Iran.
Maybe. I don't know. But now maybe I've missed this because when I woke up this morning and went through the news, the headline with Israel was U.S. Embassy hit. Did you see that? There was damage done to the old embassy in Tel Aviv, not the main one in Jerusalem. And maybe I'm wrong. So that was it was a Tel Aviv strike. But
yeah.
Is Iran not hitting Jerusalem? It seems like they're hitting a lot of places, but I'm not hearing stories of them hitting Jerusalem.
I've heard nothing about Jerusalem.
Yeah. Now, part of that may be because they, there's a lot of Islamic holy sites in Jerusalem, and they don't want to take out their own holy site. Like Muhammad was supposed to have ascended to heaven in Jerusalem, right? But I have not seen anything about attacks in Jerusalem. They've been staying away from Jerusalem. These other attacks, even they hit the Israeli military HQ. That wasn't in Jerusalem. And I'm not saying there's restraint there. I'm saying, because that might be portrayed as that way. Because I was watching some of the coverage yesterday, and they were talking about, well, Trump said you can't take out the supreme leader. And I saw some people saying, well, look, they're not hitting Jerusalem. So The reason they're not hitting Jerusalem is they don't want to take out their own holy sites. I would think, if they hit Jerusalem, they could take out the rock that Muhammad ascended to heaven on, right? So so that's they're not hitting Jerusalem because they're trying to be rational and reasonable. It's selfish.
Well, given that, what is your point?
My point is that the Iranians are evil. I mean, that's it. All right, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm Travis from South Carolina.
All right, well, I appreciate the call. Oh, my goodness. It's one of those days, Steve. It's one of those days. They think you and I have been doing this just for like 5 minutes or something. I can tell who those callers are just by the way the line blinks on hold. I don't know what it is. I used to be. I
got a good ear.
It's profiling. I got a good eye and a good ear, and I can profile pretty good. Now, on some other news, though, I just want to mention this at the end. Did you watch the parade on Saturday?
Yes, I did.
Oh, wasn't that beautiful?
Yes.
But there were
inspiring.
Yeah, but there were a couple of problems with it. I mentioned this at the top of the show at 6, but I want to bring this up again at the end because this was crazy. I was watching the presidential box, and Pete Hegseth looked very ticked off, and he just didn't seem happy, and it was strange, I don't know if you go back and look, maybe you'll notice he had weird looks on his face, Pete Hegseth. And
what do you make of it?
Well, my wife and I, we watched the whole parade, every second of it, and my wife said, look at those guys, they're not marching right. And I looked and I said, you know what, you're right. And it was unit after unit. They don't know how to march. They were not marching in lockstep. They were not marching properly. They have not been properly trained how to march. And about, I don't know, 20 to 30% of the units were not marching properly. And that's over the bad training they were getting. And I'll tell you another thing I noticed. There were a lot of overweight Army personnel too. I saw one guy.
Did you notice on the first one? Did you notice that when it was going on? Could you tell the difference?
In what? That they weren't marching properly?
Those who were marching properly, yes.
My wife noticed it right away, and I was like, "Oh, there's no way. This is a special honor guard." And then I watched, and I was like, "You're right." If you go back and watch, a lot of them were not marching right. They don't know how to march. Now, I'm not a marcher, but I'm not in the Army. That means they haven't been trained properly. And that I think that's why Pete Hegseth had those looks on his face. I think he was fuming over it. And a lot of them were overweight. I saw one guy. I can't remember if it was the World War II. You know how they were coming in the period uniforms? It was either the World War II guys or the Vietnam guys. I can't remember which one. But I saw one guy go by. He was right on the outside, on the side of the column that was facing the president, and his belly was hanging over his belt. I've never seen...
Has there been any press about this?
Right here on the Steve Kane Show. I'm sharing this. I mean, well, I don't know. Some other people have noticed this too. I did see some people talking about this online. But there were overweight soldiers, and a lot of them were not marching properly. They didn't know how to march. They weren't coordinated. And in fact, I did notice like there's something off about it. And then when my wife pointed it out, once you notice it, you can't stop seeing it. You know what I mean? Once it's pointed out to you. And if you go back and you watch, you'll start to see some of it. And I have no doubt in my mind, that's why Pete Hegseth was ticked off.
I can't believe MSNBC missed that.
The Trump derangement syndrome stops them from seeing things they could really be. But they may not want to report it because that's a reflection on the Biden military. These guys were not learning. They were too busy with their preferred pronouns and their, and the transgender this and all that and critical race theory. But there was a lot of them. It was column after column, and it got to the point where I was just watching their feet.
And where in the media have you seen it covered?
Online, I've seen people
Just
notice
here?
it. No, I've seen people talking about it online. I haven't seen it on television or anything, but it's true. And if you guys go back and watch it, which I'm sure some of you will, anyway, you'll see it.
I can't believe it wouldn't be a huge story.
Well,
I mean,
a lot's
from the
happened. I mean, we
liberals.
got this war and with Israel and Iran, and they got that
But
killer.
I mean, MSNBC is dying for anti-Trump stuff. They can't
Yeah.
find anything. They're so frustrated.
Well, Trump's only been
This
president
would
a
be
couple
natural
months.
for them.
That's not Trump's fault. He's only been president a couple months. This is
No,
Biden's
but by
fault.
the time they get finished twisting it, it'll be Trump's fault.
Well, I imagine that, and Pete Hegseth, he looked like he was furious up there, and I'm guessing that's why. The overweightness and that they couldn't, a lot of them weren't marching properly. And
do you agree? If you're right, would you not imagine it'll come forth today?
Maybe.
In the mainstream media?
Maybe.
What do they call it? The legacy media?
There's so much going on in the news. I don't know.
By the way, while I'm thinking about it, what legacy? What is the significance of legacy media?
It means like the old ones, ABC, CBS, NBC. That's legacy media. New York Times.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Historical.
Historic. Yeah. I like mainstream better than legacy, but legacy. Yeah. What's their legacy? Lies, misrepresentations. Things like that. But I'd like to know. I'm curious about if Pete Hegseth sent out an order to teach all these guys how to march today. I'd like to know if that order comes down. Well,
I'm sure if it did, I'm sure MSNBC would find out about it.
Yeah. Well, have
it be featuring this story.
We're out of time for today. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. It's the Steve Kane Show. Steve Kane, of course, is here. I'm Brian Craig. God bless America. God bless President Trump. 10 years ago today, he came down the escalator. See you tomorrow, 6 a.m. All right, guys, listen. Thanks for joining. Make sure you subscribe if you are new. Let me see here. Hold on, let me try a call before I go. Hold on, guys. I'll take a call or two before I leave, but I got a busy day. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. Once, twice. All right, you missed your chance. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian. Calling from the States. Morning. How you guys doing?
Who says they're calling from the States?
I did.
Where are you Where are you from?
Government. So.
Where are you from?
I work government, so I want to keep it low key, if that's all right.
Okay.
But I did have a question, just because I'm trying to get a gauge on everything. I'm a little confused with the hate for the gays.
There's no hate for the gays.
Where does that come from?
There's no hate for the gays. I mean, and by the way, why don't you tell us you're from Canada? Why are you acting like you're some American government worker? You're Canadian.
See, you're just making assumptions right now.
No.
You can look at the area code.
I'm not looking at anything. It doesn't matter what area code someone's on these days. Why do you think I say you're Canadian?
Because you're assuming off of accents.
Oh, you think you have a Canadian accent?
Or why are you calling? Well, I don't know then.
Well, no, when you said the states, and Americans do not call the United States the states. The only people that call the United States the states that have an accent like you are Canadians. Canadians call the United States the states. We call it the U.S., the United States, America.
Yeah, well, I'm not Canadian, but
I've never heard an American.
Go back to
I've never heard an American call the United States the states. But anyway, there's no hate.
Georgia, just north of you. I'm in Georgia. Is that better?
Okay. There's no hate of gays. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, it seems a lot of mockery and a lot of disinformation going towards
what
them.
Disinformation?
Dressing up as them.
What disinformation did I give?
You're dressing up as them.
What misinformation?
You're dressing up as them, and you're.
What misinformation did I give out?
When you're going in and you're saying oh, they can't even set up a ladder. These liberals,
yes, they couldn't.
I don't understand it.
I have video of it. There were 4 or 5 of them. They couldn't do it.
Okay. That's okay though.
Is it okay if you were at a MAGA rally, if you took 4 or 5 random guys at a Trump rally, you think they'd be able to stand up a stepladder or not?
Well, I'm not sure, but if
I think they would.
I know me as a person, I would go and help them. I wouldn't make fun of them. I wouldn't be a mocker.
I am a member of the media. I am a member of the media who was no, I wasn't there to partake. I was there as a member of the media, interviewing and observing the events, not participating in them.
I thought you said you were cross-dressing when you were there.
I didn't say I was cross-dressing. I think that was your fantasy.
Yeah, you did. You said you dressed up and you put on your makeup.
I didn't say any of that. I said I left my MAGA hat in the car and went undercover to the No Kings rally. Where you got that I went in drag, I don't know where you got that from. Oh my goodness.
Anyways, what is the reason? Like, isn't it all about love? Isn't that what we want? We don't want this divide. We want peace.
They were calling Donald Trump a Nazi. That doesn't sound like love.
That's not me. That's not the majority. And it's not that he's a Nazi. It's the actions he's taking. It's the way he goes about it.
What has he done that's wrong?
The big divide between
what has he done?
Democrats and
What has Trump done that's wrong?
He's conned the tradesmen, proven him guilty, 34 felons against it.
What do you? I don't know what you're talking about.
He said that his legal practices have hurt the farmers of this country. He's directly called veterans losers.
No, he hasn't. He's never called veterans losers.
Yes, he has.
No.
You can look it up. You can go look up
a guy that he fired. Okay, his former chief of staff, who was a retired general, was fired, and he said that Trump said that. He never said that. Nobody ever heard Trump say that.
Yes.
No.
They did.
No. Where?
You're just denying it.
No. If Trump said that, you don't think we would see that video and hear that audio all the time?
Well, did you see the recent video of him coming out, talking about how North Korea and how his armies and how people are clapping towards him and how he wants to get that instilled in our country?
What's wrong? What's wrong? So you're against having pride for the United States?
No, not at all. But the way
that's what he was talking about. And he said he said in these other countries, he said he talked to Putin, he talked to excuse me. He said I talked to France, I talked to Putin, and they all have military parades commemorating World War II. Why can't we have one?
Do you think that's who we want? Because we're goddamn United States of America. We're not Russia. We're not North Korea. We are the ones that unite people. We're here to protect.
What's wrong with a parade? You're against parades now?
Well, when you talk about all these national...
What's wrong with parades?
National debt.
Okay, hold on a second. Hold on a second. You asked me about gays a minute ago. This is Gay Pride Month, and there are gay pride parades throughout the country. Why are there gay pride parades?
Why are there gay pride parades?
Yeah. Why are there gay pride?
To show representation of those.
To show pride
of those that were oppressed.
To show pride that they're proud that they're gay and they're out. That's the same thing goes for the United States. The Army Parade is to show that we are proud of our Army that gave us our country in the American Revolution, and we're proud of America and our might. It's the same thing as a gay pride parade.
Yeah, but nobody wanted that. Nobody wanted that.
No, that's not true. The majority of the people.
Can I get a sentence in or no?
The majority of the country just elected Trump. He just won an election. You're in a cult, a never Trumper cult.
Look, there was millions of people taking the streets and protesting this.
So what?
And there's less than 20,000 people.
You guys lost.
You guys,
we just won Listen, we just won the national election. You lost in November. We won the election. You lost.
Yeah,
we're the majority.
Guess what? When we lost, we didn't go and commit domestic terrorism against our capital, killing those that are.
No one. The only person that was killed on January 6th was Ashley Babbitt, who was murdered by the Capitol Police. Listen, I got to run because I got a busy day, but I appreciate the call. Listen, guys, I do have to run. I got a very busy day. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. I'm Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Thanks for watching, everyone.